Hello everyone, this is Ed Denzel, host of Unfound. I wonder if you will consider becoming a supporter of this YouTube channel. By pressing the join button below, you can receive, for just 10 cents a day, the video version of the podcast a day early, the Unfound Now episodes a week early, daily video updates from yours truly, and cool emojis to use during the Monday night live show. Please consider it as you watch the following spectacular video. Thanks. Shawn Tyler Dickerson was a 23-year-old from San Francisco, California. He was a trendy guy and a music prodigy. On the morning of December 2nd, 2011, Shawn left his apartment for what friends thought was his job. Instead, according to pictures Shawn posted, he ended up taking a stroll of the city. He was never seen again. I'm Ed Denzel, and this is Unfound. Given the change in technology of the last 15 years, photos have become an integral part of our lives. Seriously, who was the person who came up with the idea of merging a phone with a camera? Genius. I hope that person is like a gazillionaire now. Sure, in the 1980s and 90s, we had Polaroid cameras where the photo rolled out in a few seconds, and remember, you shook it around to make it develop faster. But now those cameras feel like ancient history. For Unfound, we've had several disappearances where photos, not videos, but photos of either the missing person, some piece of evidence that was important to the disappearance, or images taken by the missing person himself or herself that have given us more insight into those cases. What are some of them? The Marco Island 3, Chase Lackey, Shane Fell, Brenda Sika, and there are many more. Well, with the disappearance of Shawn Dickerson, we once again must analyze images, but we must also talk about why photos have never been taken. In total, for this case, are we getting the picture? And now a summary of the case. This is brought to you by my friend Megan Linez's website, charleyproject.org. Shawn Dickerson certainly qualifies as one of the quirkiest and most unique people we've featured on Unfound. In high school, Shawn started a trend of taking an umbrella with him everywhere he went, even when there was no rain, and friends followed suit. In his 20s, Shawn would dress as if the decade were the 1930s, and take a briefcase with him even though there was nothing in it. From just watching others play the piano, Shawn sat down and became a pianist himself, without a teacher. Yet Shawn had his flaws. He got caught shoplifting not long before he went missing. In addition, Shawn ducked out on the community service he was supposed to fulfill as part of his sentencing. So, on the morning of December 2nd, 2011, Shawn was seemingly late for work. His close friend Angelie woke him up and rushed him out the door. Little did she and other people know that Shawn had, for all intents and purposes, quit his job the day before. Shawn was never seen again. Months later, after hacking into Shawn's Facebook account, his family discovered that on that day, December 2nd, Shawn had taken a stroll of the Mission District, taking pictures as he went, with the last one being taken from the Golden Gate Bridge not long before sundown. However, if Shawn did in fact jump, nothing connected to him was ever found in the water or on shore. Instead, witnesses connected to a traveling counterculture group claim they have seen Shawn multiple times over the past 12 years at their gatherings. Media in San Francisco have often connected Shawn's disappearance to 4 other similar cases in the area, 2 of which we have already featured on Unfound. However, in covering those, the consensus of you, the audience, is that they are not connected to each other in any way. Please keep that in mind as you try to answer these 3 questions during the interview. Number 1, should the sightings of people from the Rainbow family be taken seriously? Number 2, given that disappearances are about people, not circumstances, does Shawn sound like the type of person who would harm himself? And number 3, is it unreasonable to think Shawn's on-again, off-again girlfriend has known where he has been since 2011 and that Shawn is still alive? Shawn's parents firmly believe he is alive here in 2023. The guests for this episode are Shawn's parents, Trisha and Philip Brucker. Unfound news. Before the next Unfound episode is released, there will be a new project for you to check out. It's my teachable course, How to Podcast Better Than Anyone. If you or someone you know wants to get into podcasting, this class will show you how to do it successfully and become a pro like myself. The website is howtopodcastbetterthananyone.teachable.com. Next, the 3rd episode of the monthly series Found is now out for Patreon and YouTube supporters. I take a look at the disappearance and discovery of JC Dugard, who went missing for over 18 years from Myers, California, until she was found alive in 2009. I analyze why JC went missing, why she was missing for so long, and why JC was found. Please sign up at patreon.com or hit the join button on Unfound's YouTube channel to partake in the series. Finally, also, the newest episode of Unfound now will be coming out on the YouTube channel. I will once again analyze a recent disappearance from an expert's point of view. As a reminder, Jason Landry and Bo Mann's cases were featured on Unfound before becoming regular podcast episodes. I'm so happy to have the parents of Shawn Dickerson, Trisha Brucker and Philip Brucker. Trisha and Philip, welcome to Unfound.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Let's start here. Let's just talk about your family. Of course, you have Shawn as a son. What about other children? What would you like? Maybe just describe your family as just the overall dynamics of the Dickerson/Brucker family.
Well, Philip is Shawn's stepdad. I met John, Shawn's dad, when we were young in 7th, 8th grade. And, my first love and everything. And we were together through high school and we went to prom and that sort of thing. And then I had Shawn when I was 19. And then Shawn was almost 3. It was in August. So his birthday's in November, but he was 2. And John was killed on a motorcycle accident. So, you kind of think that would be the worst thing that could ever happen to you. I just turned 22. So, and he just turned 21. He turned 21 in July and he was killed in August the next month. So, then about 7 years later, I met Philip. My mom introduced us, and then we actually got married 9 months after we met.
Wow.
Shawn was 7 at the time. Yeah, Shawn was 7.
Okay.
And we've been together now 25 years.
Yep.
Congratulations.
So we didn't try to have kids, but we didn't try to have not kids. You know what I'm saying? we didn't try not to. We just it just never happened. So we just have Shawn.
Okay, very good. All right, what a great story. You meet, and 9 months later, you're a couple. You remind me of my sister Diane, kind of the same thing. She met her future husband, Jim, for some sort of get-together, and he was actually with another woman, and they ended up going out, the 2 of them, later, and 9 months later, they got married. So that story, your sort of sounds familiar to me. So
yeah,
very
we
good.
barely knew each other, but
Okay.
we honestly just knew that it was the Lord. So we just, I barely knew his last name. So,
Uh-huh. And Philip, I have to ask you, do you have any children?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you adopted Shawn? That's how it worked out?
I didn't technically go through the paperwork, but certainly since his dad passed away, I always raised Shawn as my own. He's my own child.
Okay, very good.
yeah.
Okay, great. So you two are a couple. You raised Shawn, the three of you. And where did this all happen? In what town did Shawn grow up
California.
in?
Out in California, Modesto series area, the Valley.
Okay.
So, and then
Alright.
Shawn graduated, he went to Modesto High. He graduated in 2007 and went off to, 2006 and went off to college. He was 17. So I pretty much threatened him. I didn't want him to go because he was going to San Francisco and we lived in Modesto. And, I'm like, you're 17, I don't have to let you go. Most kids kind of want to mooch off their parents. You know what I mean? So I try to give him that opportunity. He just needs to mooch off us for a while. But Shawn was an old soul. He was ready to leave at probably 13 and he would have been fine,
Yeah.
But yeah, and we knew he wanted to go to the city, so I was like, oh, he's like, Mom, you can't stop me. I mean, you don't want to go there, basically, is what he told me. Yeah, how he talks is he should be an attorney, honestly. Yeah, he said, you don't want to go there with me, Mom. You got to let me go. I'm like, all right. Because I just want him to go to Modesto High. I mean, Modesto Junior College, go to the junior college, but that's not the place for him.
Was he good in school?
He was well advanced past the junior college, to be honest with you. He needed to go to the college.
Was he good in school?
Excellent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He said,
he was a straight A student.
yeah.
Oh, was he? Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
What,
he was very good in school.
What kind of interest did he have? Sports, video games? Philip, what would you say about what are some of the interests and hobbies you think of when you think of Shawn?
Well, Shawn's biggest hobby coming up as a young teenager and a preteen he was a rollerblader. He was very big into it. He actually got a fair amount of notoriety from a pretty large group of pros that would come out and skate with him.
Wow.
He was really good.
He was an aggressive skater.
He used to skate on aggressive inline skates.
Like, going down poles.
And then when he was probably about 12, maybe, he picked up music, which was just something, he told me one day, I'm going to play the piano. And 3 or 4 days later, I saw him play the piano. And so he never really learned. He just did it one day.
Well, did you already have a piano in your house, or did you get one?
No, but I went and bought one really quickly.
He did it at the church.
He was at our church.
Those stuff.
Yeah, he was playing Mozart in church, and I was like, Shawn, when did you learn to play piano? And he's like, oh, the other day. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go buy you a piano, sir.
Yeah. My mother, I know how difficult that can be. My mother was a piano teacher, and she started me when I was 5 years old. So I can very much relate to that. It doesn't sound like I had the attitude. Shawn wanted to do it, but I have to tell you that my mother forced me to do it for many years before I totally began to respect, the instrument and everything else.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Well, it's funny you said that because I wanted him to learn technically how to play. Because I'm thinking with anything, you kind of have to learn how to do it right. I mean, if you're I sing, so if you're a singer, you can, you can destroy a lot of things and do it wrong. But no, I didn't. He went to school and he was going to, high school and things like that. And then later on, he didn't even need to take some classes, but he took some classes and they were just like, we don't teach Shawn. He teaches us. He's a prodigy in music. He's amazing. Yeah. So I was just like, wow, okay,
Yeah, because getting into an instrument like at 12 years old, you might consider that almost to be a little late, but that's not, I guess, how you looked at it, Philip?
No, because when I say that he just played, he told me on a Wednesday night that he was going to play the piano. That Sunday morning, I heard somebody playing in the church, I just didn't think anything was wrong with it, but I thought it was odd because it's not something you would normally hear. And when I looked up in the front of the church, I saw a lady standing there, crying her eyes out, and I had no idea what was going on. Mm-hmm. And so I walked over there. I asked Shawn when he learned how to play. He said the other day, the lady crying proceeded to tell me that she was the piano teacher that had been teaching for years, and she showed Shawn twice.
Wow.
And now he was playing it better than she could play it. And she's been playing for years, and it was a couple days
And what'd you say he was playing?
And so,
what's it?
It's playing Beethoven's Fifth Symphony or something.
Yeah, he was amazing. Yeah, he was amazing.
And she was just dumbfounded by it. And so, because of that, I went and bought him a piano. Like I said, I'd never seen him learn to play. I followed that up a few years later with buying him a guitar. Never saw him learn to play it, but he knew how to play it like crazy.
Mm-hmm. So you would say, Trisha, he was a little bit of a prodigy, a little bit.
Oh, yes. Yes. And, you know, we before he got into skates, he got his black belt by the time he was, 11, 12? About the simultaneously. The time we took him to karate, and, you know, he was taking taekwondo and stuff. So he was doing that at the same time that he started getting interested in aggressive skating.
Okay. What about his personality, Trisha? What would you say about his personality? Outgoing, introverted, extroverted, really comfortable around a lot of people, like to stick to himself. What would you say?
A lot of those are no to most of it. Shawn is, I don't know if introverted is the word, but he's not really outgoing, but he's one of the most popular kids in school. And Modesto High is a very big school.
I can imagine so, yeah.
And just going to San Francisco, he knew a lot of people living there for a very short time. But he wasn't an introvert. He was very aloof.
It's interesting because Shawn, I would say that Shawn leans toward being an introvert, but at the same time, unlike most introverts, he's extremely popular and had a deep list of friends. He knew people everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so he was a little bit aloof, a little bit of a conundrum, if you will. Like, things didn't always make sense in his personality, just like that. You know, most people that are introverted don't have a long friend list, but Shawn did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
good so point. It's just interesting.
Yeah, he had a best friend, Brian, and they were about the same age, but Shawn hung out with older people. You know, older guys would come over, and I don't mean older, but I mean like in their 20s or whatever. And I'm just like, what are you doing with my kid? You know, like, what is going on? And it's just because he related with them older. And I didn't understand that because I'm the baby of the family, but I was always way behind. I still am way behind my time. A good 5, even when I started school, when I was in elementary, it freaked me out. I wasn't ready to go to school. You know what I mean? I was way young.
Me neither. I was never.
And
ready
I was younger than the other kids in school and stuff. Academically, I think that, I was behind. I got through by the grace of God, but Shawn was way older than his age. And I never related to that. So when he was young, he didn't watch TV. He wasn't into watching cartoons. It was just stupid to him. You know, he didn't sit around and watch Sesame Street and things like that. He didn't want to do sports, like as far as like baseball or basketball or going to football. I try to get him into baseball or, like little league, like little softball and stuff like that. No. He wasn't interested in anything with a team, which honestly, looking back, I think that he needed that. He needed to be with a team. I just didn't know that he would turn into this more introvert type person. He needed to be with a team, but he never was interested in it.
It's interesting you say that because, talking about being that he was into like skateboarding and like even I know as a piano player, piano player can be a very solitary musical pursuit. Whereas if you're a drummer or a guitar player, that usually accompanies being, no matter what kind of music it is, usually accompanies other musicians and being like on a kind of team.
Right. You're kind of interacting with the singer, you're interacting with the drummer, the bass player is going boom, 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 you know what I mean? And then, but the piano, I noticed that the pianists, they're kind of just the keyboardists, they're kind of like off by themselves.
They are.
Yeah, that's Shawn.
Yeah, and
it's weird he navigated to those
Shawn was actually perfectly content sitting and playing his piano 8 to 10 hours a day. If nobody was around to ever hear it or if anybody was listening, he did not care.
We should have recorded more.
He just loved to sit and play his piano.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to this. What about his college career? What about his college career? What went on there? He went to college, and what did he take up? What was his education there?
Business. I don't think he knew what he wanted to do. I mean, we all want to be musicians, right? But it doesn't pay the bills. But yeah, so he just did business. He's like, I don't know what to do. Honestly, I'm just going to be honest with you. I think he was more interested in getting his foot in the door and moving to San Francisco. And I think he used college as a leverage.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just make these people happy and tell them I want to go to college, because he wanted to move to San Francisco. We kind of figured that out halfway through his first year of college. I was just like, you don't care about college, do you? I actually noticed that we were picking out books because he had no interest. He just wasn't into like, ooh, he liked his little dorm room and that kind of thing, all the fun things about it, right? But he went to school, he went to classes. There was no problem. He had great grades, but we could just tell. And so after a year, he came home. He lived in San Francisco, so he'd take the BART, and we live in Modesto, so we'd go pick him up at the BART. He'd visit us.
Yeah.
And we lived in Ceres at the time, but he'd come back and he'd say, so I just wanted to let you guys know, yeah, just going to take a break from college, And it was summertime, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but in fall, you're going back, No, that's not what I mean. I'm going to take, I don't know, maybe a year or so. I go, listen to me. You'll never go back. Do not do that. The summer I get, but you need to sign up for your classes now. So you're planning. I wanted a plan in place so that he can go, but no, he just didn't want to go back to college. So,
how are you feeling about that at the time, Philip?
Honestly, I wasn't thrilled about it. But I don't want to say that I was upset either, because Shawn, from a very young age, Shawn always knew who he was. He was very comfortable in his skin. He seemed to always be pretty poignant in the paths that he was on. And so I wasn't really, even though I wasn't thrilled, and I would have preferred to see him stick around and take a little more time in school, I felt like he probably knew what he needed to do. And so I was okay with it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Trisha,
I think we trusted who he is. We trusted who Shawn is. So we were just like, they'll figure it out, I guess. He just didn't think he needed college. And to be honest, do you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Depends.
I think it puts everybody in debt.
Yeah,
I look at the pursuit of happiness, right? He didn't even go to high school, So we just believed in Shawn that he would do something else, and he wouldn't need it. And that's what he was telling us. And of course, to most people, most parents, it'd be a pile of poo, but because I didn't want him to miss out on this opportunity, because he had the money to pay for it in full.
Okay. What about work?
And most kids didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah. What about work? If he didn't, what about work? Since he wasn't going, shows, well, I don't know if I'm going to go back to school. Did he get a job like when he moved back with you, Philip or Trisha? Did he get a job? What was he doing?
He was working. He wanted to open up his own clothing store, is what he told us.
Oh.
Yeah, he wanted to get in design and open up his own clothing store, which was right up his alley, which, that was a great idea. He didn't get that opportunity. He just, he came up missing. But before that, he was working at different high-end stores. You okay?
Did that surprise you, Philip? That might have been his desire to do that. Well, and maybe we need
to not at all. Shawn was very Shawn went to school looking like $1 million every day. I go to work, and I dress appropriately for the work I do, and Shawn goes to school looking like $1 million. He would be in a banged out pair of jeans that would cost him $150 and a sports coat, and a pair of $200 shoes. That was Shawn.
That's how Shawn dressed at home. I've never seen him dressed like in sweats and just,
Shawn always dressed like he was going on a job interview. That's the best I ever heard it put.
Philip, I'm guessing that he didn't get that from you. So Trisha, did he get that from you, or may I ask, did he get that from his biological father? Where did that come from?
I had none of the above.
John looks like Philip. Just John was blonde. That was the only difference. He looks like John was Spigoli from Fast Times.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
we don't know where he's getting this stuff from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
Shawn had his own sense of style, his own way of doing things. There were things that Shawn lived in a world where he did social experiments at a personal level. And so, he came home one day and told me that he wanted to start carrying an umbrella at school when we lived in an area that's, 85, 90 degrees every day. Like, why do you want to carry an umbrella, Shawn? It's not raining. He's like, oh, well, because I think it's cool. And the other kids will think it's cool too. And you watch, they're going to start carrying umbrellas. And sure enough, there's a school full of kids walking around with umbrellas in a perfectly sunny town.
A trendsetter.
And it was
He's a trendsetter.
He was a trendsetter. He was always like ahead of everybody else. He was
For years ahead.
Like even his style of dressing, but right down to everything that he did. He just always seemed to be, 10 years ahead of the next trend.
Yeah, I remember he was in 5th or 6th grade. So we're talking, and he wanted mirror cop glasses. Like, I'm thinking, okay, I've been around a while, this is like Starsky and Hutch stuff, Starsky and Hutch. Mirror cop glasses. And I'm thinking, I haven't seen those since like 1972. How does this kid know anything about? Nobody's wearing them on TV or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
You don't even watch TV, But anyway, so we're at the store. He's digging through a bin of just these glasses, and he finds these mirror cop glasses, way too big for his face, and he starts wearing those to school. So years later, I see like, what's that? 13 again or 17 again or whatever that show's called with Zac Efron, and he's walking around with mirror glasses on, and I'm like, this is Shawn's past the mirror glasses. He's on other things, but yeah, I didn't see anybody else walking around with these things. So he's a trendsetter. It's very interesting, but it's a mixture of the future and the past mixed together, what he wears, because sometimes he can even look like he just not walked out of 1930 with a touch of the future that we haven't even seen yet. So yeah, it's amazing. And people that he worked with at the stores and his high-end clothing stores, the managers, they saw that too. They said, Shawn is horrible customer service. He's not good with people.
No, he would like eat candy and rub it all over.
No. He would just basically tell you you're fat in your clothes. You know what I mean? He's honest. He told me one time, he goes, he had a thing for Seinfeld when he was young, very young, 3-4 years old, when Seinfeld was, out popular. He understood Seinfeld, which is a very adult stuff going on with Seinfeld, but he understood it to a depth, And so when he got into college, he's like, Mom, I figured out why I'm connected to Seinfeld. And I said, okay. And he goes, because I'm Larry David.
Oh,
okay. Let me tell you something. Larry David was a stand-up comedian long before he was the producer of Seinfeld.
Right, of course.
Because Mom, he's the co-creator of Seinfeld,
Yes.
So the comedy and the writing is Larry David.
Right, and George Costanza was crafted off of Larry David for Seinfeld.
Yes.
I need to find Larry David so I can introduce him. If you're watching, Larry, find my kid. But I would love for you to meet him. But before he came up missing, I really wanted to introduce him. I wanted to find Larry David and say, you've got to get this kid. He's like a mini you, okay? He's a mini me of you. When he was in high school, he had a friend named Marie, and I don't know if she's watching, but she was studying Asperger's in high school. Right? So she told Shawn, you totally have Asperger's, and he's like, oh, come on, and he was like freshman or something at the time. And he goes, you're just studying Asperger's, so everybody's got it, right? Everybody's got it. You get a red Corvette, everybody's got it. You see him everywhere, So as time went on, he started realizing that he does have Asperger's, and she was absolutely right. So he presented that to us, actually.
Well, remember, he ended up dating Dana, and her dad is one of the world's premier experts on Asperger's.
Yeah, he was a doctor.
And has written several books on. He ended up dating a girl later whose dad had written several books on Asperger's and spent some time with her around her dad. And her dad actually set Shawn aside and his daughter, and warned his daughter what what you're doing.
Well, what happened was he said, Mom,
and then told Shawn, you and I are way more alike than you realize.
Yeah, he said,
not good.
He said, Mom, Dana's parents, they want to meet me and they want to take us out to dinner. And I immediately, my stomach sank and I thought, oh dear God, because Shawn doesn't do good on social levels like that. And I was like, oh God, get out of it. Make up something, get out of it. Don't go to dinner with her parents,
Yeah,
and then leave, don't time like that at a dinner table at a restaurant or something. It's scary. But he ended up going. And that's when her dad told Dana, you really like this boy, and stuff. And she's like, yeah. He goes, he has Asperger's.
Let's move on here. Let's move on. So he
All
came
right.
back after that first year college and stayed with you for a while. But then how did he end up back in San Francisco, Philip? Well, how did he end up back in San Francisco?
Okay, so when he decided to not return to college, he actually stayed in San Francisco and then also went and spent some time out in New York.
Yeah, he never came back.
So he spent about a year, I would say, maybe a little bit longer, between San Francisco and New York.
In New York, did he know somebody in New York?
Yeah, he had
he went there with a friend.
That he
Yeah, he went there with a friend. They roommated together, and then they didn't know anybody. But then he got to know a lot of people there. He always does.
Okay. So he was in New York, but how long was he there? And then eventually, how did he make it back to San Francisco? Did New York City not work out, or what happened?
Yeah, it didn't work out. He had a job that he didn't have anymore. We don't know why. We don't know what happened with it. He was calling me a lot in New York, more than he ever called me from San Francisco. Like almost every day I was talking to him all the time. So I just kind of felt like he might've been lonely out there or something. I'm not too sure, but that was always his dream to go to New York. It just might've been maybe too big than he thought it was going to be, in your mind. He did go to No Soup for You. He did go check out Seinfeld stuff, which was his dream. That was a good thing. But I think he was only out there for about 3 to 6 months. And then we flew him. We flew him back to San Francisco. He wanted to go back home.
All right. And you said he got back to San Francisco maybe about a year before he went missing. That's a pretty good guess.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think it was in 2010.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to this. So he moves back to San Francisco. I guess, did he go back to working like in the clothing business or something there?
Yeah, I think he worked at a couple like convenience stores as well, too. He didn't go back to college or anything like that. And he was just working and doing his band.
Let's talk about Angeli. We're just going to use her first name for the purposes of this interview. But she, of course, play an instrumental part a little later in our interview here. But what can you say about her, Philip? How did Shawn and Angeli know each other? Let's talk about that.
Okay, so Angeli and Shawn met in high school. They were both right around 15, 16 years old. They dated through high school. They were high school sweethearts. They eventually did what a lot of high school kids do, did a little bit of breaking up and getting back together toward the end of high school and during the summer break in between high school and college. Then they ended up getting back together and moving out to college together.
Okay,
so
when he went
and left for school together.
All right, so when he went to San Francisco the first time, she went with him or not? Yes?
Yes. Yep.
She did. Okay.
Yes.
Trisha, your opinion? Well, of course, we're going to put what we know, everything later, but at the time, them dating in high school and everything, did they make a good couple?
Yes.
They did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually worked with her dad at the hospital.
Oh, did you?
Before they dated. He was the engineer. I worked in the ER. I was a supervisor of the ER and did admitting and that sort of thing in Modesto. And we worked together. He would come in and so I knew Ray. I knew her dad. And so he said, I think our kids are dating. And I said, what? Yeah. So we kind of put 2 and 2 together and realized that we'd work together. So that was kind of cool.
All right. So we just have to differentiate. You talked about this other young woman that Shawn had dated whose father was an expert on Asperger's. This is Angeli is different from her.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was Dana that he had met later.
Very good. All right. So when he went to New York, Angeli did not go with him. She stayed in California or wherever.
Yeah. She had at one point went to Paris, I think. And then I think at that time she was living in Washington. She'd moved out to Washington with her sister.
Okay. So is it then your understanding that, Trisha, that when he moved back to San Francisco, did they become a couple again, or how did that all work out?
Yeah, I think he was shooting in a pool hall I'm not mistaken. And he ran into her. In fact, he called me and said, "You wouldn't believe who I ran into." And I said, "Angelique," because, everybody else was still in his life, So he ran into her at a pool hall, and then they started to, I guess, we're not too sure what their relationship was.
Okay.
Dating or just good friends. I know that the place that they were living with a bunch of other people, neighbors next door, said, "We don't know if they're even together. We think they're just really good friends." So I really don't know the aspects of their relationship at the time that he went missing, but they were living together at the time.
Okay. So then I guess what we're saying is they went to San Francisco the first time together, but then the second time they just, like, coincidence, just total coincidence, ran into each other, like you said, at this pool hall. That's your understanding.
Yep. Yeah. She'd moved away, and I guess she came back. And so I don't know if they didn't have each other's phone numbers or that sort of thing, but yeah, they ran into each other. Okay. And so they got back together, and then she moved in with him in the house that he was living when he came up missing.
Okay. And Philip, what is your understanding as to what she was doing in San Francisco? We know that Shawn was working. What was she doing? Going to school? Do you know?
I believe Angelique was still attending school and working part-time. Honestly, after Shawn and Angelique broke up, she and I were very close while Shawn and her were dating. And after they broke up, she didn't talk to me as much as she used to. And so I didn't have, necessarily the tabs on her that I had before, or her calling and said, "Hey, here's what's going on," or whatever.
Right.
We were really close with her parents. Okay. At one point, they called me and said, because we all went to church, they went to like a big Baptist church. We were Pentecostal and stuff. But anyway, they called, wanted to know if we would take in some foreign exchange students at one point. And this is when Angela and Shawn were out in college, that first year of college. They were both in college in San Francisco. So I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd look into it." Sure. And so her mom got together with me, and we've had dinner with them. The kids come, the kids are there, and we've gone over for dinner with them. So we have a relationship with her parents too.
Okay.
So anyway, I said, "Sure." And so we got 2 foreign exchange students that came and lived with us for the summer, Chinese, and Shawn loves Chinese people. He has a thing for Japanese and Chinese girls, actually. Angelique's not, but he does have a thing for him. So anyway, I just said, "This is cool." So he came and met them, and we actually went on a big field trip and went to San Francisco and took the boys. Everybody did, all the foreign exchange, parents and everything. We all went together, and we took. They've never been to San Francisco before, so that was really cool. We took them for the summer. So anyway, yeah, that's what happened, and they were living there, and that's when we took these boys in for the summer, and so we were very close to her parents, not just them 2 dating. We were very close to her parents.
And do you think that leading up to Shawn's disappearance, that her parents were just as maybe a little vague on what the status of the relationship was as you two are? What do you think?
Probably, because when Shawn came up missing, they never called me.
Okay, and we'll get into that later. All right, so just not sure, but I guess what we're saying, Philip, then, is we just can't take for granted because the two met and ended up living together again that they were necessarily like a romantic couple.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
And what is your understanding regarding? I understand though that they had other roommates, Philip. You don't have to say their names or anything, but just the connections to Angelique or Shawn. Who were these other people that were all living together down there in San Francisco going into 2011?
You know what? There was just a squad of people coming and going. I met a few of them, Aria and a few of his other roommates. Aria was the one that I probably met the most and spent time around the most. Aria's super cool kid, super down to earth.
He was his band member. He met in college.
Huge heart for Shawn. He really appreciated Shawn's natural musical talents and who Shawn was. Even in the oddities that were Shawn, I think Aria really had an appreciation for the uniqueness that made Shawn Shawn.
Okay.
So as far as like all the other roommates, I'm pretty sure the kids were just, they would rent a room, stay for 3-4 months, and then they would go somewhere else and somebody else.
But they knew Shawn.
but they all were
They
tied
knew
to Shawn.
Shawn. They were connected to
Yeah,
Shawn.
Shawn would rent the place.
And Angeline moved in with him. Yeah.
Okay, and then your understanding then is only Angeli and Shawn were from the Modesto area. All these other people were from somewhere else.
Yeah, I have no idea where all these other kids were from.
All
Yeah.
right, very good. Trisha, how would you say the living situation was? Was everybody getting along leading up to Shawn's disappearance as best as you can tell? Did Shawn ever say anything to you like, some of these roommates are really getting to be a pain? Anything like that?
No, they didn't live together very long. It was only about a month or two
Oh, okay.
before Shawn came up missing.
Oh,
In fact, Angeli didn't know anybody when she moved in there. She just knew Shawn. And of
okay.
course, she got to know them. But yeah, it was a very fresh living situation.
Okay. And maybe I should ask you, going back to Philip, where exactly is this apartment? Maybe you even remember the exact address, but what is the address or even at least the street, the cross streets of where they were living in San Francisco at the time?
Remember that, babe? I don't.
It's in the Mission District, which is rough. It's rough and ready in the Mission District.
Okay.
Edwards, or I can't remember the name of the street.
Okay.
It was on. Yeah.
All right, but Mission District of San Francisco. I've never been there. Maybe one of these days I'll get there. Okay. All right, so they're all living together. Shawn is working. Angeli is, I guess, going to school. These other people. Shawn has this band. At least one of the band members, I guess, Aria, is also in the band. And how was the band, as best as you can tell, Philip, how was the band going? I mean, did they play like every weekend or just once in a while?
It's hard for me to say because Shawn was a bit aloof. But according to Aria, and I don't recall the other kid's name in the band that I spoke to before, but both of those boys told me that Shawn was the genius behind that band.
Huh.
And he wrote all of the musical parts for everybody.
Wow.
And last I heard, but not too long before he came up missing, maybe 6 months, he had gotten a European label to make a commitment to his band that they would do a release for him, but he needed to turn in 12 songs. And last I heard, he turned in 11. 12th one never got turned in, and then he came up missing right in that same time frame.
And Trisha, what kind of music were they doing?
Oh, Lord. Nobody sang. I went to listen to him. I'm thinking, is anybody going to sing? Is anybody? No. It's this, what do you call it? Techno music?
Like EDM, electronic dance music or something like that.
The band is
like
called
offbeat.
It's FEIE is the name of it.
Okay.
You can look it up online.
Okay, all right.
He plays these long, and you'll appreciate it because you do piano, but it's long, these keyboards. But in fact, somebody had gotten a hold of me after Shawn came up missing and he saw the video because you can YouTube feed. And he was like, Trish, do you have any idea that instrument that he's playing? And I'm like, not a clue. It's a keyboard, isn't it? And he's like, no, it's not just a keyboard. You have to be very musically, whatever, talented, I guess, to play this thing. And I had no idea. It's Scary Mansion music to me. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't relate.
Right,
I don't know. I don't understand it.
Okay.
I go, you can't dance to this stuff. And what are you doing? Nobody's singing, it's, what do you call it?
I don't even know what to call it because
You'll probably know.
the one thing because I talked to Shawn about it and I tried to get him to explain it to me. And he really found a kick in finding beats where there weren't supposed to be a beat.
Oh.
So making a beat in the middle of an offbeat.
Yeah.
And so it was really tied to doing things like that.
Scary
Like
Mansion
writing
music.
songs that were basically one giant music exploration.
Okay.
All
right.
doing things you shouldn't be doing, but making it a song.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's move on to this. And I don't want to stay on this too long, but I guess we have to talk about it. Shawn was caught shoplifting at one time. Trisha, what is your understanding of what happened? When did this happen? Were you aware of it as soon as it happened? And like I said, we don't have to spend too much on it, but it did happen. So what exactly were the circumstances?
Okay. So we had no idea that he was doing this at all.
Okay.
Not a clue until he came up missing.
Huh.
So when he came up missing, we found out at the police station that he had been arrested for that one night, just one night.
Okay.
But it was what do you call it? Not a misdemeanor, but a felony. And I was like, what do you mean? What's he stealing? An elephant? What the heck? What do you mean a felony? Why is it a felony? Well, he stole a jacket. It was a dress coat. That was the amount of it was, I guess, like $1,800 or something like that. So it makes it an automatic felony. So they gave him work duty. So he spent the night. They gave him work duty. And that's what he was doing, was work duty. I didn't know anything about this. This was literally right before he came out missing. It was in October. So he was doing work duty. Okay. And to work it off. And they said, we were just going to let it go. As soon as he gets done with his work duty, we were just going to, we're good.
Yeah, he didn't have a record of anything.
Because there's no record of anything.
The city was like, they were going to just
hopefully you learned your lesson. See you again, carry on, right? So that's what happened. He didn't tell mom and dad, which is weird because he told us everything.
Okay.
He told us everything, but he never told us that he got in trouble. We didn't know. I don't know Shawn shoplifting. He's not a thief. I don't know him to be a thief.
Yeah. At all. Shawn had money.
Usually they have like a pattern when they're little or something. No, none of that, because Shawn had money, which was weird. He had money. There was no point in stealing, but.
Philip, how did he get caught? What happened? I guess you didn't know at the time.
I don't know all of the details. What I do know is that he was trying to steal a jacket, and he got caught by store security, and he had, of course, the jacket, but he also had the tools that you use to remove the security devices, which I think is why they made it actually a felony.
Yeah,
I don't even think it was just the cost. I think it was the fact that he had those tools that he had gotten from wherever. You probably ordered them online, I imagine. But he had some of those tools, and he had used them to remove the security sensor, and that was actually what made it a bigger deal than what it really was.
So he got caught like as he was leaving the store.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he got caught. They called the cops. He was thrown in jail, and then he was doing work duty. So that's what we didn't know about any of this until he came up missing.
All right, and like you said, this was like in October of 2011.
Yes.
Okay. Was this the store where he was working, or was this like somebody else's store, a competitor's store? What was it? It
was Saks, Fifth Avenue, and he wasn't working there.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Saks.
And is after you, of course, he went missing, you found out about this. Is it your understanding that his roommates knew that this happened, or was this just a total surprise to everybody, of course, but Shawn? What do you know about that, Trisha?
I don't know about everybody, but I know people knew about that he did it. Yeah, that they knew about it.
Apparently, he had been doing it for a little bit and had a reputation for being reasonably good at it. If there's such thing, I don't know how you could be good at stealing, but his roommates kind of gave us the impression that he'd been doing it for a little bit, and he was pretty good at it.
So the deal is this: the kids got together, and this is what they told me. They said, Trish, at one point when you move to San Francisco, it's very expensive to live here.
It is.
So we steal. I said, we? What do you mean? Like Shawn? No, we steal. I said, what do you mean? They're like, well, you go to the convenience store, and you grab a candy bar and a bag of chips, and you steal it because, we're struggling, which is sad, really. They're struggling. Yeah. These are all good kids, but they just kind of feel like they need to steal a sandwich on the side or something, or a bag of chips. But the problem with that is Shawn didn't stop.
Okay.
And instead of just chips and some Snickers, and I'm not talking about he immediately just started becoming a thief. No, it was a gradual thing, I think is what happened. And they're just we're off getting jobs and doing other things. And, we kind of grew up. This is what they do when they first go out there for college. They're young, 17, 18-year-old. And I'm like, oh my God. And they're just like, and then Shawn just didn't stop. He got the bug, I guess. Okay. I had no clue any of this was going on.
I'm sure he didn't.
We found out a lot of stuff when he came up missing. Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to this. All right. So there's that. Doesn't seem like a big deal. And I'm guessing if he doesn't go missing, this is something that isn't even mentioned in your family 12 years later. I'm guessing.
Yeah, totally.
In fact, you might not even have known about it. It might have been something that never happened. Shawn's still around living his life. And you two still don't know that it happened. Very possible.
We probably would have never found out. Right.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I've never shoplifted at anything. Maybe I've done some other things that my parents never knew about, so I can understand.
Maybe, well, we know back in the 70s and 80s, we didn't have YouTube and stuff to prove it.
Yeah, I think every teenager and young 20-year-old has their list of things that their parents would be ashamed of.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't be any different.
Right, I might have street raced 1 or 2 or 100 times, maybe back in the
day. No, I'm maybe street raced. may have stolen a few things. I may have tried too many.
He did get in trouble with the cops before that, but it was kind of like, hey, knock it off. And he was climbing roofs. So he would go up to the skyscraper roofs, tall buildings.
Let's talk about that.
City.
Yeah, because it's in my notes. He was asleep. I have it once again. Maybe I should jump in here for a second. The listeners should know that I've been talking to Trisha for quite a while. I'm ecstatic that we finally got to do this interview. But Trisha and I don't think I was ever spoken to Philip till this day. We're doing this interview on May 19th of 2023. But Trisha and I have been talking together for a couple of years. Of course, we were using an outline. And one of the things in the outline that you told me at one time was that he was sleeping on roofs. What can you say about that, Trisha?
That was another thing I didn't know until he came up missing. I didn't know that he was sleeping on roofs. So I found that out. I'm like, what do you mean sleeping on a roof? And he would take the elevator up to the very top, and then he would climb out the window, like Spider-Man is what they called him. And then from there, he would climb on the side of the building. Now you're talking skyscrapers. And then he'd climb up to the top and go up there. I don't know if anybody else went with him or if they had the nerve to. I have no idea, but that's what he did. In fact, there's a picture where he's walking and he's kind of doing this with his hands. He's actually up on a skyscraper. So apparently somebody was with him on that one, I guess, because they took that picture. But so when he did come up missing, I was kind of thinking like the Hangover movie. They found him up on the roof, right? I'm like, maybe he's stuck on a roof. When he came up missing, right? Because, you might get up there and just get stuck. You don't have a phone or it died and now you're just up there on a roof, right? So I said, have you guys thought about checking the roofs? Because when he came up missing is when I found out that he was up on roofs. So
yeah, and we have to remember there was a disappearance, although she was eventually found, of Alyssa Lamb in LA. She was found on the roof in a water tank of a hotel in LA. So maybe that's not so crazy of thinking about looking at
wow.
roofs.
Well, when The Hangover came out, of course, later, because Shawn's been missing for a while, I thought that's weird. He's up on a roof, got stuck up there. So yeah, that did cross my mind.
Yeah, I can understand that. All right, let's move on to this. I'll go back to you, Philip. There's one more thing about these issues. Obviously Shawn sounds like a very unique guy. I think I would have liked to have met him. Maybe I will. I of course hope that he's still alive. Maybe I will get to meet him one of these days. But at some point he was using this alias Klaus Agnes. What was that?
Okay, so as not too long before Shawn came up missing, he started saying odd things to us about wanting to change his name, and some of his friends. He was telling his friends, I'm Klaus Agnes. And so his friends were like, no, but you're Shawn. He's like, no, I'm Klaus Agnes, which is apparently a combination of two names from two of his favorite bands. But, in that, I just feel like, Shawn, right before he came up missing, he was apparently going through some sort of identity crisis, right? Because he was talking to us a little bit about changing his name. He was telling his friends to start calling him by a different name. And so, whether it was like a bad thing, identity crisis, or just wanting to be somebody other than who you are,
we chopped it up to eccentric.
We don't know. At the time, we just, like Trish said, we just chalked it up to be another one of Shawn's many eccentricities. Because he was just an eccentric guy.
He's a little OCD too. Like he would have to have everything like brown shoes. All of a sudden, everything has to be brown.
Yeah.
The different type of loafers and dress shoes would all be different shades of brown. So he would just go through periods of strangeness like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking though, on the other hand, being that he was a musician, I think we know how many musicians don't use their real names. I mean, Sting, that's not his real name. Alice Cooper.
Sure.
So I'm wondering if that was part of it as well.
It's very possible. That's
what I think that's good about it.
The only reason that I would be inclined to think any different is just the fact that Shawn came up missing.
Right.
And so it makes me wonder, was he preparing himself to walk away from life? We don't know. But it makes me wonder.
So at the end of 2010, when we moved here to Colorado from Modesto, everybody told me, you should get Facebook. I didn't do any social media stuff at all. especially when I lived out in California. I'm like, why? I see you guys every day. I'm at work. I see people all the time, you know. But when I moved to Colorado, they wanted me to get Facebook. So I did. So in 2010, I got Facebook. And then I don't know the rules, but I friended Shawn, you know. And so now he's friends with his mom, which is uncomfortable. And I'm like, what's the problem? You know, I don't know. I just joined. I don't even know how to put a picture up. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I just joined that. So I didn't know anything about Facebook, but Shawn's profile changed. It was nothing. He had no profile. And then it went to, and this was my first like mother's intuition of something's going to happen.
Okay.
This was the only thing that I got was I saw his Facebook profile picture, and he was dressed like old 1930s. He had a top hat, and he carried an old suitcase, an old style briefcase, like you're going to run to work. There's nothing in it; it's just empty. But he's carrying it, and he was running sideways. It was a blurry picture of him running sideways,
like he was running away.
Well, and you remember this is in 2000. You know, this is the year before. The end of 2011.
No, that was 2010.
Yeah, 2010, the end of 2000. It was around the end of 2010. And I saw the picture and it startled me. It's just a picture of him running dashing, and for some reason where are you going? What are you doing? Where are you going? It felt like to me, I'm leaving. Bye. Okay. Even though it was just, cool little picture. So I called him up. I said, I was frightened by it. It startled me. He just put it up. He only had it up for a few hours. Mm-hmm. And I said, Shawn, what's with your profile picture? Where are you going? He's like, what do you mean? I go, where are you going? And he's like, oh, Mom, you're looking too much into this. And I said, no, I'm not. It felt like he was giving a signal that he was leaving. And then shortly after that is when he did.
Right. Mm-hmm. All right. So I guess what we were saying then, going to the next part of the outline is something I always ask family members before we get into the actual circumstances of the disappearance, is that maybe there were some concerns about him. What would you say about that, Philip? Maybe some concerns. You're talking about changing his name. Of course, Trisha just talked about this picture. Were there some concerns about him in the mid?
Not on my behalf. I don't want to speak on Trisha's, certainly speak for Trish, but on my behalf, was so eccentric and already did odd things, right? Like, he dressed like he was going to a job interview every day. Who does that? He went through a period where he wanted to have nothing but brown shoes, but they had to be like slightly different colors, so they weren't identical brown shoes. And so because he did these, these little bits of OCD-ish things here and there, and things that just that came across as a little bit eccentric, when he started doing things like, I'm going to change my name, or I'm gonna post this picture that makes my mom uncomfortable.
He took it down immediately too when I called him.
I didn't think that much of it. I just didn't, because Shawn was
he's a musician. He's great.
He was such a unique guy. He always was so comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah.
That I just didn't think much when he would do things like that. Okay. I was like, it doesn't really matter if Shawn wants to be Klaus Agnes. He can be Klaus Agnes. I mean, that's okay.
I don't think anybody called him Klaus.
I don't think anybody ever
okay.
But I mean, I wasn't concerned, because in my mind, I think I even talked to him about it one time and told him, well, I'm still going to call you Shawn when you go home.
Get off your
It's still going to be Shawn to me. It's okay. You can be Klaus too, but you're still going to be Shawn. I mean,
right. Trisha, but maybe I'll ask you this then. Did any, like Angelique or any of the other roommates or anybody, ever contact you and saying, you know what, Shawn's like acting, we know that he's a little eccentric and everything, but he's even more eccentric than usual. Anybody ever say that to you before he went missing?
No. I think that he was doing a lot of things, but nobody was calling the parents. After high school and a little bit in the beginning of college, we would talk to Angelique, and then, we had the Chinese boys at our house and that sort of thing. So we were very close to her family. But then after that, it wasn't, she never called me or anything like that. Like, we weren't talking all the time on the phone or anything like that. No, I'm mom and dad, with it. They're not going to tell us
of the ex-boyfriend
things that are going on.
Okay, well, just saying any of the roommates maybe looking out, for his best interest. Of course, Shawn doesn't have any siblings that they might go contact. So if they have a concern, You know, that's all I'm listening. I guess the answer is no. Okay.
My sister was out there a lot too. My sister lived in Modesto and she would visit San Francisco a lot.
Okay.
So they were seeing her.
Yeah, we're going to talk about her a little bit before too long as well. Let's move on to this. And my understanding is, of course, that you didn't find out about this until after he went missing. But what can you say about that preceding Thursday evening? This would have been December 1st. There was a get-together of friends. Did something strange happen there? Something that off-put Shawn? This is something you had told me, Trisha.
Yeah.
What went on there? What have you? Of course, this is after he went missing. You found out about this. But what have you learned?
So Thursday is very interesting. Thursday's the key to the next day, him coming out missing. Okay. I really think Thursday is a lot of things went down on Thursday, more than I know. Now, remember, I'm only getting this information from Angelique because there's nobody else to tell me what happened. Yep. So our information we get is always coming from her. So anyway, apparently he went to work that day.
Sorry about the day before. Yep.
Yeah, the day before. He went to work that day, the day before. He was at Rolo clothing store where he was working. Now he was supposed to be doing work duty. He stopped work duty to get this job. When you do that, then you got a man in a suit coming and knocking on your door.
Right.
So there was somebody knocking on his door going, what are you doing? You have to do your work duty. But he was just like, okay, I've done that for a few days or a few weeks. I'm done. Now I'm going to go get this job that I want. So he didn't care. He left the work duty and was working at the job. Okay. For a month. So that Thursday, he had a review. His boss gave him a review and that he does a 30-day review, good, bad, what you need to work on, what I love about you, that sort of thing. And it was also payday. So I said, did Shawn seem depressed? No, he seemed anxious. He wanted his paycheck. Like he was anxious to get his money.
Okay.
He needed to go somewhere, but he was working. And so anyway, they work in a boutique type clothing store. And it's a very small clothing store. There's not a lot of people that work there at one time, maybe 2 or 3 people. So Shawn got his check. He had his review. And then afterwards he said, can I take an early lunch? And he said, no, I can't. There's nobody to watch the store. You have to take a lunch at whatever time, 2 o'clock or whatever. Yeah. Well, Shawn bugged him about going early. So he let him go early. So he said, Shawn walked out the door to go to lunch. This was Thursday. Okay. He came back in right away and said, oh yeah, I don't have my wallet. My wallet got stolen or it's missing. He didn't have a wallet. So he's like, oh man, now you're making this inconvenient. I'm letting you go for lunch and now I got to leave the store. So he said, the bank's just down the street. So he walked with Shawn to help him cash his check and they parted ways on the street. And he said, okay, I'll be back in 30 minutes, whatever it is. Go have my lunch and come back, right? Well, he never showed up. He never came back to work. That was Thursday. So he said, I text Shawn and said, what happened? Where are you? Did you get hit by a bus? And he goes, now that I know what happened afterwards, I felt bad about that. But, I didn't know what happened to the kid. He didn't come back. So Shawn left him high and dry is what happened. Now, I believe that day he also tried to rent a bicycle. Well, he had no ID, no credit card, but he had his money. You just got paid, right? Okay. So he's going to go try to rent a bicycle. He's supposed to be at work, but he tried to rent a bicycle. And they said, no, you can't rent a bicycle. You need a credit card. And they said that Shawn had a fit in the store. That's weird to me. What are you on? What are you doing that you had a fit? Shawn doesn't have fits. He just, So they said he had a fit in the store. They totally remember him being there. And then that day he went home. Well, that he didn't tell. The boys next door were sitting on the stoop. And they said when Shawn got home after he tried to rent the bicycle, and Shawn looked very sad. He was very sad. And they said, what's wrong? And he said, I lost my job today. And they go, oh no, you loved it there. That was your ideal job. Yeah. And he said, hey, let's go shoot pool this weekend or whatever. Or, tonight or tomorrow, this weekend, let's go shoot some pool. And he just walked past him and he was depressed and he walked into the house. Well, this is where Thursday night comes in at. So now we're at the Thursday evening. I guess when he walked in, Angelique had first told us that she had some friends over and that Shawn was being weird and embarrassing. He was jumping up and down on the couches like he was her little brother and he was embarrassing her. Okay. And she goes, I don't know what he was on, but he was just out of it. And he was running up and down on the couches, and Shawn running on furniture is another weird thing. Like something you do when you're 7 and you're trying to embarrass your sister, that's how they acted.
Yeah.
So, that's what I mean by what kind of relationship do they have. So anyway, that story changed to, no, I didn't have friends over, but I had a guy over. Then she told me, I'm like, what? Okay, this is a whole new ballpark now. I'm picturing you got some girlfriends over. He's embarrassing you. She goes, no, this friend that we had over is a mutual friend of ours. But so Shawn's like, we're all just friends. I'm like, then why hide it? Then why did you hide it? So anyway, that was weird. That was a weird thing right there. Okay. Was that it was just hidden from us, it was hidden. And she changed the story. So anyway, and he was embarrassing her in front of this male friend of theirs. Then he stayed up really late and she said, Shawn, you got to go to bed. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. You got to go to bed. You got to get up and go to work. I don't think he went to sleep till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. She finally got him to go to sleep and they all went to bed. And then the next day was 11 o'clock in the morning and they all slept in. And she woke up and said, oh my God, you got to go to work. And he was startled. And she said he grabbed a Pop-Tart, deodorant. He put some deodorant on and ran out the door at 11:30.
All right, let me jump in here and just ask you a couple questions. How was it eventually figured out that he tried to rent a bicycle? How did these people come forward later, or were you canvassing the area? How did you know
when he came up missing, the cops looked at his phone record.
Oh.
And saw where places that he called.
Oh, gotcha.
He had called the bicycle shop and said, hey, I wanted, maybe looking for a certain bike. And they said, yeah, come on in. Well, when he got there, he didn't have the identity to, credit card and stuff like that to back it up. You can't just phone $50.
No, you can't.
Your bicycle,
sure you can't.
All
right,
what I mean by kind of common sense. I'm not too sure. He's very intelligent, but,
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure how we understood that. In addition, is it true that he actually did lose his wallet? I mean, is that something that is actually I know he said it, he didn't present it to somebody, but
yeah, he didn't have it on it. He doesn't. So apparently his laptop and his wallet on 2 different occasions, really close up to when he came up missing, came up stolen.
Stolen.
Okay. All right.
So he had no.
Or at least that's what we were told by Shawn.
Yeah, his Apple laptop and his wallet. Well, not by Shawn, but by the other people when we found out he came up missing.
Okay.
He had no wallet.
All right.
Yeah,
so he told you about his wallet.
His laptop was missing and the wallet.
That's right.
Yeah. No, just a few days before that. Yeah, he had mentioned that his laptop had been stolen not too long before that, and then his wallet had come up missing, and he thought it was stolen anyway. I don't know if he said it was stolen or if he knew for sure.
Lost it or stolen or
But he said he thought it was.
All right. Well, Philip, I'll ask you, being you're talking about that, did he give you the circumstances under which his computer got stolen? It was sitting here, and I think so and so.
He did not. He didn't mention anything about it. If I had to guess, it would be probably Shawn left it somewhere silly, and somebody picked it up and walked off with it, or something more along the lines of that.
He didn't seem too concerned.
He didn't seem,
which was weird to me.
He didn't seem all that mad about it.
He was more upset about it than him when he told me. I'm like, aren't you? Nah, like it grows on trees. Just go out and pluck it off a tree, another Apple computer. But no, he didn't seem to be too concerned, which I thought was weird.
Okay. All right. So as an example, he did not say, I think one of these other people living here took it. Never said anything.
Not at all.
Nope.
Okay. Very good. Going back to you, Tricia, being that you brought it up right there at the beginning of what you were saying there about Thursday. So I guess what you're saying is he was supposed to be going to this work duty, and instead he went to this job instead. What would have been the consequence, had he not gone missing, what would have been the consequences of him standing his work duty responsibilities up?
I don't know what they would have tagged on to the end of that. I mean, they come knocking on the door looking for him, because Angela said that, they would hide him, or he would not be there, and they would say he's not here. They would come knocking on the door looking for him.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was at work.
Right. And your understanding is how much left of that work duty did he have? Do you even know?
Oh, about a week or 2.
So not long.
It was very short. He was at the end of it. He could have just finished it off, but I guess he had applied for the Rolo job, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, yeah, we want to hire you now. So instead of telling them, oh, by the way, I have this thing I got to finish. No, he just walked away from that and went to work.
And Philip, if you can remember, how long was it? When was his last day of the work duty? How close was it to when he went missing? Was it like within a week or?
As far as I'm not really sure. I would guess a couple weeks, because there, like I said, there was kind of there's a window where he left that and got hired on with Rollo, and he didn't work there very long.
No, only a month.
Maybe, yeah. So if he was there a month, then it was probably a month prior to that he just said, forget it. You know, his priorities were whatever he decided they were. And that was, you know, going and working and not worrying about the trouble that he'd made himself.
So when you say work duty, this is maybe somebody maybe in another jurisdiction might call this like community service or something like that.
Yeah, it's like work release, community service. Yeah.
I don't think they ever told us exactly what he was doing, but that's what they just said. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So he goes and has this job at Rollo, and we've had this story. You know, he comes home. Of course, Angeli has told a couple different stories. I'm not going to get right into that right now. But she claims a couple different things, you know, who was here, who was there, and he was embarrassing her. But we go home to that Friday, and he seemingly, allegedly, none of us were there, but he seemingly got up late for his job, for this job, though, that he had stood up kind of the day before, right? This is the job?
Yes, and I did miss something. I forgot. That night, the Thursday night when he was up late, he did call his boss at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So he called his boss. Here his boss has been looking for him, probably calling him, he probably ignoring him, and he never came back. So when he called his boss, he said, Shawn, what's the deal? You're waking me up. And he goes, well, I just wanted to let you know, I'm sorry that I can't be the employee you want me to be. I think that I have Asperger's.
Oh, he said that.
So there's rumor has it, if you Google stuff, that he was fired. No, he wasn't fired.
Okay.
He walked away from that job. So anyway, I said, what'd you say, Mark? And Mark's like, okay, first of all, I'm being called in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But somebody, he could have told me this in the interview, in our little review that we had, our little monthly review that we had. But instead he called me and tells me this. He goes, so listen, Trish, I'm not one to throw these young kids away. I'm one to teach them a lesson. And I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't want to let Shawn go. Shawn is one of the most brilliant people I've ever worked with. He's not good with the customers. But, you know, I want to throw him into the window and, you know, have him work on our design.
Yeah, but helping people pick out outfits and stuff like that, he was great at.
Well, yeah, but, you know.
But not to actually talk to the people part.
Yeah.
Just what looked good on there.
Well, and when you're in customer service, I mean, you work with customers. I mean, you can't get around it. So he was trying to create a job for him. And, you know, this was all going to come out, but he didn't come back. So he said, hey, listen, I don't care what you have. You don't walk out on a job like that. Yeah. You need to talk to me. So I'm willing to work with you, Shawn. You haven't lost your job. You know, you left. You didn't come back today. Okay, good. Let's get over it. Come back in tomorrow. Let's talk. Because I got something I want to tell you. And he told me that that's what he was going to tell him, that he was going to create a position for him. It kind of reminds me of the movie Mannequin, right? I mean, I'm from the 80s, right? The guy working in the window on mannequins. What are we going to do? So anyway, I don't know if Shawn said, yeah, I'll be there or whatever, but he didn't plan on going back. So the next day, so he did that phone call. They went to bed. He woke up late. He did not tell them in the house. He told the guys next door, I lost my job today, but he did not tell his roommates or Angeli that he lost his job, so-called lost his job. He didn't say anything. So she thought he was late for work. So he runs out to pretend like he's going to work. This is when he took the series of photos.
All right, we're gonna get to the photos a little bit later, but I'm gonna ask you, Philip, who was the first person and when realized that Shawn was missing, that he wasn't where he was supposed to be? What is your recollection on that?
Well, so Angeli and her roommates certainly would be the first one that noticed that Shawn had not been around. However, Angeli called us on the Wednesday after December 2nd.
Wow.
And which was odd because we didn't really talk to her too much anymore. And we thought it was just, you know, odd that she was calling. And she called and she asked Trish if Shawn was here with us.
In Colorado.
Which, you know, Trish was like, that was weird. I got a call from Angeli. She wanted to know if Shawn was here. I told her no. And the reason, you know, when Trish asked her why she called, it was because Shawn was going to come out for Christmas. And Angeli thought maybe he'd flown out early. You know, that was kind of the way it was put across.
She's never called me before, so I thought she misdialed.
And Trish told her, no, Shawn's not here. And didn't really think that much of it. She just figured, that Angela
and Shawn said why. She said Shawn didn't come home last night. which
No, that was not yet.
Yes, that is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that Wednesday when she called me, she said Shawn didn't come home last night. That's
So
not
that would have
true.
been the. All right,
Shawn
so
didn't come
let me
home
help.
Friday.
I have to jump in here so this doesn't get too confusing. So it's on that preceding Thursday that he leaves work early with his paycheck.
On the 1st.
It's Friday, yeah. The Friday, the December 2nd, is when he leaves. Allegedly, none of us were there. He leaves allegedly going to work, but I guess he didn't end up at work that day. And then it's not until that Wednesday. So that Wednesday would have been December 7th. So 5 days later is when she finally called the both of you.
And I'll tell you why she called me on Wednesday. They waited to call me till Wednesday. So it was around, okay, so rent's due, first of all. Now you got a bunch of kids living together, okay? It's on Friday the 2nd, going to work. I don't think they realized that nobody has seen Shawn in a couple of days till about Sunday. Is my recollection of it. Okay, so he didn't come home, and they were like, "Where's Shawn? He owes rent, right?" So now we're moving into the 3rd, the 5th. He knows rent. They can't find him. So they all got together and said, "When's the last time you seen him?" And Angela said, "I seen him on Friday morning. Has anybody seen him since?" And no, nobody's seen him. Well, he had once again, Mom and Dad don't know about this, but he had court because he gave the finger to the work duty, right?
Right.
Now he's got court on Wednesday.
Oh.
So they knew he had court on Wednesday. So they said, we're going to
you.
wait around and we're going to see if he goes to court. So they went to the courthouse on Wednesday and he wasn't there. He didn't show up for court.
All right. So that's how that all
That's
works
when they
out.
called me, and that's when they reported him missing. So they all went to the police station. They reported him missing on Wednesday.
Okay, but still in that
After they called
conversation, the way you remember it, though, she said, we haven't seen him since yesterday, which would have been Tuesday.
He didn't want to tell me they haven't seen him since Friday.
Okay, all right, gotcha. So they didn't want to scare you too much, I guess.
Right.
Possibly,
We don't want to tell we haven't seen this kid in 5 days. He didn't come home last night. That was Wednesday when she called me.
Right. Okay.
But I didn't know it. Unbeknownst to me, he didn't come home. You know, he's been missing, and he didn't go to court date. So they wanted to see their last ditch effort is let's call his parents. Maybe he's in Colorado. They don't know that he stole a jacket. They don't know he went to jail. So that he might be hiding out at their house because you got some guy knocking on the door, right? So, but he wasn't with us.
Okay, very good.
That's when they put 2 and 2 together and they said, okay, we got to report him missing. He's missing.
All right. Philip, what you have learned, and I know both of you have learned, but I'll go over to Philip for a little bit. Have you learned anything from Angeli or any of those other people who were living there with Shawn? What did they try to do to find him? Did they drive around? I don't know if they have cars or not, but they walk around, ride bikes around, drive around, anything like that in those days?
You know, prior to notifying us, I don't know what they did. I have no idea if at whatever point in time between Friday and Wednesday they realized he was missing. I don't know if they drove all around and looked at a bunch of local spots where he would be known to be, or local community friends or whatever. I don't know. I do know that after Shawn disappeared and after she called us and told us, what was it, that following weekend, right, Trish? When she told us that he was actually missing.
Wednesday, when she called me on Wednesday, that's when I thought it was a weird call, so I told Philip about it. It just was disturbing. It was weird. And so I said, right, okay. Then my sister called. My sister called the next day, Terry, and she said, and I didn't tell Terry anything about this. I just told Philip. She said, my sister said, what's going on with Shawn? And I said, why? Why? What do you mean? Mm-hmm. I thought Angeli might have called her, like, hey, is Shawn where? You know, and she goes, I got a funny feeling something's going on with Shawn. I couldn't sleep last night. My sister. And I go, okay, Terry, Angeli called me last night and they said they haven't seen Shawn since Tuesday. You know, he didn't come home last night. You know? And she goes, what? Okay. Why didn't you tell me? I said, I don't know. I didn't. Is there anything wrong? What do you mean? Why didn't I tell you? I don't know. He's probably sleeping on a roof or something. So she said, no, I got a weird feeling. So she took off and she went to San Francisco. When she got there, they were acting funny, you know, and Terry's like, what's going on? When's the last time anybody's seen him? And that's when Angeli's like, okay. We haven't seen him since Friday. We all got together and realized we seen him on Friday.
That's when they fessed
up. Oh my God. She goes, but I couldn't tell your sister because, you know, right. And she goes, well, we got to report him missing. Right. And they're like, well, we already did that. Okay. And she goes, you reported my nephew missing? And she's like, yeah, we went to the police.
Okay. All right. So they had to fess up when when your sister shows
My
up there
sister's
like
pretty tough.
that,
You'll mess up too if
right?
she get
So
in your face.
so
You
once
don't have a choice.
all right. So once again, I have to keep this in line for all the listeners. We keep throwing days of the week down. It's easier if we use dates. So
Yeah.
we got December 2nd is technically, as far as we can tell, everybody wants to think it's another date. None of us were there. But December
Right.
2nd is the official date, but it's not till the 7th that they start worrying about it because of this court date. They file the missing persons report. Your sister shows up there maybe on the 8th.
Thursday, yes, on the
Thursday
8th.
the 8th. And that's when she kind of looks them all in the eye and say, hey, you going to be honest with me or not? And that's when they say, well, you know what? We got to be honest. It was like the preceding Friday isn't the last time any of us saw Shawn. In addition, if they did do any looking for him, nobody else had seen Shawn in those preceding 5 days either.
So my sister says, hang tight. Give me a couple of days. I'm going to go look for him. Or just give me some time. I'm going to go look. And she didn't think it was going to take a couple of days because nobody thinks missing. We don't think anything's wrong. We just think he hasn't come home. And So anyways, all these pool halls and everything. Well, then Saturday she called me. I didn't call. I waited to see what she was going to go find. I didn't think there was anything wrong. I'm like, my sister is just picking up on stuff, So she runs out there, and that's when she called me on Saturday. The minute she called me, I knew. I said, where's Shawn? She goes, okay, Trish, listen. Okay, just listen. And I said, what? And that's when she said, they haven't seen him since Friday, not Tuesday.
All right.
I got the truth out of these kids on Thursday. And I said, what? And then after they spoke to you and realized he didn't go to court. What do you mean court? What court? He doesn't even have a car. What, do you get a ticket? We didn't know. So, it was all blasting to me. And so.
Okay. Just so
Shawn was missing.
Once again, to help the listeners out, this is Saturday, December 10th. And he went missing on December 2nd. So it's a week and a day.
So we didn't officially know, the official date for us was a week later.
8 days later, yeah.
8 days.
Okay, very good.
8 days a week, yeah.
Okay, and this is when you started to find out about, I guess this is around this time you found out about the shoplifting, the work duty. You found out. I just
heard he didn't go to court or something, and I kind of what does that mean? I let it go because I'm trying to absorb that my son's been missing for 8 days. I didn't know until I went to the police station. When I went to the police station and talked to them, that's when they said, you do know that your son went to jail. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then that's when I remember them saying something about court. And then I connected it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Philip, when was it about this time that you found out, both of you maybe, you had this discussion with his supervisor or manager at that store? When did that pop up? That you passed along this conversation that Trisha's already talked about. When was that?
Oh boy,
I called him on the phone.
Yeah, I don't recall. Yeah, Trish, maybe you would know that better than me. I don't recall when you called. When did you call Rollo?
He was working. We were both working, but we couldn't both just get off work, so I took off and ran out there. And when did you from the police station, I called Mark at Rollo.
So you go down there. Did you put up flyers? Did the police do anything? Did they go over there and talk to the roommates? What were those next few days of trying to figure out? And we're going to get to the picture shortly, but what about the actual, once this all happened, what went on there for those first
Saturday, I called the police immediately when I got off the phone with my sister.
Okay.
I called the police and they said, we had some kids come in on Wednesday and report him missing. And they said they filled out a form and we just basically threw it in a drawer is what they said. And I said, what? And I said, well, how come you didn't call us? Nobody told us that my son was reported missing. Oh, you know how it is. He's a young male. They're low on our priority. We don't, I'm shocked. So 15 seconds ago, I just found out my son's been missing for over a week. And now the cops are just very, I was wasting his time even calling, and I didn't understand. I said, okay, what are you saying to me? If it was my daughter, would that be different? He goes, yes, that would be different. I go, what if it was my grandpa just wandering the streets? Well, that would be different too. But young men going missing in San Francisco, it's not a priority for us. So this was shocking to my system, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I didn't understand. What do you mean? I didn't know a bunch of people just go missing all the time in San Francisco. And he's like, yeah, we get over 300. Now, this is 10 years ago when he said this. Mm-hmm. He said, we get over 300 people missing a month in San Francisco. Yeah. Okay. I said, okay, You have over 300 people missing a month in San Francisco. You have a problem. I go, listen, my son wasn't just partying for the weekend, like flew out there and hooked up with some chick or ran off on Angelique or whatever. He lived there. He's been living there since he's been 17. He's been living there for 5 years. This is someone that lives in San Francisco. This isn't somebody that a lot of people go party and we don't know. They could live in Kansas. We don't know where these people come from, right? I said, he lives there. You understand this, right? Oh, yeah. I said, okay, so what did you find out when you went to his house? Oh, we didn't go to his house. I go, okay, listen to me. You got a bunch of people coming to the precinct to tell you that there's a young man missing that was one of their roommates, and you don't go to see if there was even foul play or something? No, they look like good kids to me. There was no blood on the sidewalk. There's nothing in our senses that makes us believe that there was anything wrong. He probably just ran off. He'll pop up.
Okay.
This is what I got.
Philip, I'll move over to you. Did you, maybe you can give myself and the audience the idea of it. It was not unusual to you that neither of you had heard from Shawn between like that Friday or that Thursday until Wednesday. That thing never popped up. Nothing on Facebook, nothing, no texting, no calling, nothing like that.
No, honestly, I don't use Facebook at all. I'm kind of an anti-social media guy.
Okay.
But as far as like normalcy, no, I mean, we heard from Shawn maybe every couple of weeks to a month. So for us to have not heard from him for a week or a week and a half or something it wasn't uncommon or anything to be concerned about. Okay. It was pretty par for the course. He's a typical 20-year-old boy that doesn't want to call it updated. 23. Or 23, sorry.
Yeah.
That doesn't want to call his parents and tell his parents everything he's doing in his life,
Okay.
He lived his life and he kept us up to date on what he felt like was important. And we, of course, kept him up to date on what we think is important in our lives too.
And where were you two living at the time of his disappearance?
At the time, we were living in downtown Denver. We'd been here maybe a little over a year. We moved here in 2009. So we've been here about 2 years, I guess.
All right. So you were not in the California area anymore, like up there where Shawn grew up.
That's correct. We'd moved away.
Okay, very good. Let's move on. And Trisha, you've already mentioned this, and being that you are the social, Philip has already mentioned he's not into social media.
He's not on it. And I was new on it, so I really wasn't on it like I am now, where it's every day and you're looking. Yeah.
All right. So I will ask.
And he didn't post a lot. Probably a typical boy, he didn't post a lot. Shawn didn't have a lot of things on his Facebook page.
Okay. But this is going to be a major part of this. And being that you've already brought it up, so I'm just going to direct the questions to you since you are the social media person. Now, he posted these pictures, and the biggest question I have, of course, is there proof that these pictures were actually taken on the day of his disappearance? We know we take pictures and don't sometimes post them till like a week later or something, but let's just start there. Is there proof that these pictures were actually taken on the day of his disappearance, or is it there's some wiggle room in there?
Well, they were uploaded that day. Now, we're talking months later. A family member broke into his Facebook page.
Okay.
Illegally, right? I'm not going to tell you who it was. But anyway, they broke into his Facebook page, and we found the pictures in a private envelope. Like, you make it private rather than public.
And they were time and date stamped.
And they were time and date stamped when he uploaded it. So that is a good question. I don't know. Like in the day when we had pictures, there was it would be 1972 or 1985. Right. Remember back in the day on the actual picture?
Yeah, I do.
But this is, he uploaded them on that day on December 2nd. So, so in that Friday, instead of going to work, he went to Chinatown. He literally went to Chinatown. He went to Chinatown and ate food, and he took pictures of his plate full and then empty. Mm-hmm. It looks like he's by himself, but who can tell? He's playing. He's going down the slide. He's going on a swing set, and he's taking pictures of his legs. So you can see his leg, swinging,
his feet,
and his feet up in the air, going down a slide and that sort of thing. So he's kind of playing hooky or something. I mean,
okay.
I have him at a little playground. He was playing at the playground.
All right, and we have to.
Every picture was done in twos, and they were done very artsy, which is up his alley, right? They're done in twos. And there was pictures of these green blinds, I guess that maybe in the Chinese restaurant or at a different place, but it looked like it may be in a restaurant, that there were these green blinds that he took pictures of. He took 2 pictures of those. And then as he walked, and we did the path, walking to the ocean is where he went. And one of the pictures, another one was 2 of the sun, 2 of a lamppost, 2 of a red chair hanging on the side of a building, just pinned up on the side of a building. He took pictures of that, but everything was 2 until he got to the mountain, the Marin County mountain. And he took that was 1 picture, was the last picture. And that was time dated as time was 5:30, 5:28 that evening, Friday night.
Friday evening. Okay. So we have to remember this would have been on the day that at least Angelique thought that he was going to his job. Instead, it seems that he was walking around taking these pictures, going to this Chinese restaurant, taking pictures of his food.
Got cash in his pocket. He's spending his pocket money.
Okay. All right. And have you, the both of you, ever made that walk, trying to follow the pictures? And did you two ever go down there and talk to any of the employees or anything to remember, how long was this after he went missing that you discovered these pictures? Do you remember?
This was about 4 to 6 months later.
Okay.
So this had been a while.
A little while.
Yeah, it was about 4 to 6 months later that we discovered there was these pictures in his Facebook in a private envelope, private. And there was probably about 20 to 25 of them, which was another weird thing. Because if you look in the history of him taking pictures and putting them on Facebook, there's not a collage. There's maybe 1 or 2, but this was a collage of pictures that he did that day. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So I guess he had his phone with him then, right? I guess
yes.
he has phone. And did you ever get any ping information, being that he was using this, taking these pictures? Did you ever get any ping information from his phone?
No, the cops wouldn't do it.
Wouldn't do it.
We asked them to ping his phone when he came out missing, and they refused to do it. It was against his rights, personal rights.
They said because as a young man, he has the legal right to come up missing.
If he wants to.
If he wants to, that they don't have the right to just go assume that something's wrong and mess with his phone. That's a violation of his rights.
Okay.
They were no help at all. None.
Okay.
No help.
So just to ask you about the pictures a little bit more, anything in those pictures, once again, I just really want to be sure of this because I know, once again, we all have used our phones to take pictures and things, and I like taking videos of ducks down in the pool at my condo here and everything else. But we realize sometimes we don't post them till later. Anything in those pictures that actually did have a date on it, or even the weather that was outside, does it look like the weather of the day that he went missing on December 2nd of 2020?
Well, it was what he was wearing. He walked out the door wearing those clothes. He was wearing his black tight jeans and his brown shoes, his brown work, dress shoes. Okay. Mm-hmm. And his gray hoodie. He was wearing a gray hoodie. You don't see a picture of Shawn, but you can see his body, because he's taking a picture of himself.
Okay. And what did you say? Where was the last picture taken again? Please remind the listeners.
Marin County mountain. So if you're on the bridge, if you're on the Golden Gate Bridge, mm-hmm. there's only one way to walk on it. You can't walk on both sides. You can only walk on one side.
One side, yes.
When people get up and I just kind of threw it out there, but we didn't know the last picture where it was taken from. It was just a picture of a bridge. A picture of a mountain. We don't know if he's on a boat or on the land, but you can tell that it's lifted up. You can tell you're a little bit above the water. So his grandpa blew up the last picture because you kind of had to see more clear. Yes. And on the bottom of it was an orange rail. And that's when we found out that he was standing on the Golden Gate Bridge.
All right,
and if you line it up, you can put X marks the spot of basically he was standing between these 2 lampposts, maybe on the bridge. And you can see, the mountain and the lights that are on the mountain and that kind of thing. So we knew where he was standing when he took that picture.
So I have to ask you, and I have watched that documentary that was done way back in 2006 about people who have gone to the bridge. And I'm not saying I believe this happened to Shawn. This is just factual information that I know that they sometimes do have cameras and things that keep an eye on the bridge if they believe anybody has jumped or anything like that. Was there any record around that time of somebody jumping from the bridge that they couldn't identify?
No. So what happened was, first of all, we found the pictures And then it was probably about another month or two after that is when we realized the last picture, because we didn't know it when we first found the pictures. We were just like, Shawn's goofing off, right?
Yeah.
Well, that last picture, his grandpa said, I got to tell you guys something. He was on the Golden Gate Bridge, which scares you. Okay?
Yeah, of course.
And so I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, you know, I mean, he's on Golden Gate Bridge. But I've been on it and I didn't jump. And I know a lot of people that have been on it. And, you know,
Sure.
So anyway, I'm like, oh my God, that's what happened. It had to happen. That's why he's not calling, you know, right? Well, first of all, so anyway, so we didn't know about the bridge picture until about a month later is when we discovered that last picture that's where it was from. So now you're pushing it out to like 7-8 months into it, right?
Right.
Of December 2nd all the way over here. Well, that's when I called the cops and asked them if they could talk to the bridge people and see if they have any video or they found anything and they said, oh no, you call them. You do that. You're a mother and they will respond to you better than they will us. They didn't want to do anything for Shawn.
I could tell.
So that was the reason they just pushed me aside. So I said, sure, I'll call them. So I called, and immediately when I called, I got a hold of the bridge people and I told them, you know, asked them the situation, and they said, oh, honey, nobody jumps off the bridge anymore. Okay, well, I've already done some investigation and I know they do. I said, listen, save it. Save it. People jump off the bridge all the time. I know they do. And I know this is like a little secret of your guys' because I know that's like your bread and butter and your little trolley cars. I get it. But they jump all the time. So just say that. I know that they jump. I just want to know if my son did. Now, remember, we're talking 6-7 months later, right?
It is, yes.
Okay. So I know if they had footage, it's gone. They're not going to keep footage, you know, 6 months later, right? So anyway, I go, is there anybody I can talk to? Because obviously you're not going to talk to me. She goes, well, there is this one guy. I'm not going to give his name. She goes, there is this one guy that has a heart for the jumpers, is what she said to me. So she gives me this guy. So I get him on the phone and he's just a young kid. You know, he's about Shawn's age. And I said, okay, so you're going to investigate my son. I'm going to give you my son's case because the police department don't want it. They're not doing nothing with it. So he's like, you're going to do what? I said, yeah, I'm going to give you his case. I want you to investigate my son and investigate this day that happened. And then I want you to get back to me. He's like, okay. So he did. He dove in for about 2-3 months, huh?
Yeah, he spent a little while looking into it and looking through footage and everything he could do. And he did not find any indication that Shawn.
All right.
So he gets a hold of me. He goes, there's zero evidence that Shawn jumped. Let me tell you why. First of all, it's Friday, 5:30 in the evening. It's very busy on the bridge. Yeah. People are getting off work. People are going to dinner. You got people jogging, riding bicycles. It's very busy on the bridge on a Friday evening, you know, at that time of the day. Somebody would have seen something, and you're not going to go out there and jump when it's busy like that. He goes, so that's one thing. So just know, I don't believe that your son jumped. And the clothes that he was wearing, those would be off. We would find a shoe, his sweatshirt, whatever. We would find any of that stuff. Okay. And we put that in the lost and found, and there's nothing of anything that your son was wearing that day there's nothing about that day that would say that anybody jumped. We got no reports.
So Philip, I guess what you're saying here is you both looked into, I guess, the physics or the mechanics of because, you know, no matter what that person says, we know, I mean, the Golden Gate Bridge is the most popular suicide spot in the United States. I
knew this even before this happened. Yes.
Right. Everything, you know, anybody, you know, and especially Northern California, growing up there, you know that. I know it because of the work that I do. But I guess what you're saying then, Philip, is the mechanics of it and the physics of it. Somebody said, well, you know, if he did, would he have floated? Would he sink? Has it ever had a really in-depth conversation with anybody about that particular point, Philip?
Yeah, they did. They did basically. I
studied everything about it.
They did basically tell us that, you know, that first of all, that, you know, there was no indication that he had jumped or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But had he jumped, that there are natural things that happen due to the way the ocean's currents work there and the way the water movement is. And that, you know, 95% of the people that jump off of that bridge, 95+%, their stuff will wash up on a beach,
or they will
certain beach, right, or their bodies will wash up on these other two beaches. And so none of that happened. And so mechanically, you know, there's no reason to think or no evidence to imply that Shawn jumped. You know, obviously there was a picture that made us nervous. But nothing else, nothing else. The young man that did a bunch of research looked at video footage from around the time that Shawn was
telephone
there.
calls.
Telephone calls, everything, everything there just indicates that was just another part of whatever it was he was doing that day.
Okay.
And he was just, making a
Nobody
trip
in the family believed it but me. I didn't believe it, but I was scared that it was true. So I was on the bridge. Like literally, not literally, but I mean, I was on the bridge. I went into a deep depression thinking
I'm sure you did.
that Shawn jumped.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you what I knew. The phone never made it to the water. That was my saving grace. Because if you're going to jump, and first of all, you wanted your paycheck. Why would you want your paycheck if you're going to go commit suicide? It makes no sense. And his phone never made it to the water because it rang and rang for what? Good 2 weeks.
Yeah, it rang through for like probably a good 10 days.
Well, after he came up missing, we started calling him like the 7th and 8th. I mean, the 8th day that we found out that he's officially missing, we were calling him. I was calling him before that, but it would go straight to, it would go to voicemail. It would ring and ring and go to voicemail. Yeah. So somehow it's being charged, but it didn't make it to the ocean. If you're going to jump off that bridge, why would you leave your phone behind? You wouldn't.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right, let's move on to this, though. Is it true, though? Of course, we already talked about the situation where he came home, said something to the neighbors about getting fired. But did he also say to somebody, "I'll be dead by the weekend"? Did that actually happen, Trisha?
Yeah, he told that's what the neighbor boys said. They said he was depressed. And he said, I lost my job. And they said, oh, no, well, hey, do you want to go shoot pool this weekend? And Shawn, in a sarcastic way, because he's funny that way, they thought he was joking. And he just kind of turned toward them as he was going up into the house. And he said, I'll be dead by the weekend.
Huh. Okay.
They told my sister that he said that. And they didn't take him serious. They thought he was joking.
Yeah,
he
of course.
Was, he's very sarcastic like that. So
right.
They told my sister that. My sister told me that. And I was, between that and finding the bridge picture, I was lost it.
That's why I'm asking. Yeah.
But then when I actually got to thinking about it and got the investigation going, I realized there was no evidence. It's a stupid time to do it if you're going to do it, unless you want to get caught or stopped. And your phone never made it to the water. So with those things, I eventually, then with all the sightings that we've got, if we didn't get any sightings, okay, right? But because we've gotten so many sightings, some solid ones through the years, a lot.
Really good.
I'm like, he didn't. My sister's like, do you really believe Shawn jumped? Are you serious? Shawn is kind of egotistical, you know what I'm saying? She just didn't see him doing it. She thinks showing the mountains.
We don't want to get into anybody's theories. That's fine. We can just move on. We made the point here. There's no proof that he jumped off the bridge. Yes, he was on the bridge. A picture shows that. But according to the people who understand this, who are used to going into the water and fishing bodies out, clothes out and everything, the best information they've given to you is that most likely his body or some of his clothes or something would have ended up on the shore or something, and none of that happened. Those are the facts.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay,
facts.
very good. Let's move on to this. Let's go back to Angelique. Once again, we're just going on your opinions. Philip, your opinion on how she reacted to him being missing. Of course, she knows she was part of this group that actually filed the report, but once everybody started looking, and maybe even when she found out about these pictures, what would you say was her overall attitude toward Shawn going missing?
It came across a lot to me like she just didn't seem like she cared very much, to be honest with you, which I found very odd. Angelique and I were very close, and she, suddenly started avoiding me, not wanting to have conversations with me, and that at some point in time that she knows where Shawn is at and what's going on, and what at least was going on. After she did the police report and after he came up missing, I think that she's had communication with him. And it may have been shortly after, because she really did shut down really quickly. She didn't want to talk to us about it. She didn't want to
help at all.
She didn't want to help put up flyers. She didn't have any interest in going to vigils. We would call her family. They wouldn't even answer the phone. Angelique a point in time just quit answering the phone when we would call.
Okay.
She doesn't want, she kind of closed us out. We were always pretty close before.
All right. And
And
Trisha,
so-
what would you say about the other roommates besides her, the ones who were not at one time romantically linked to Shawn? How would you say the rest of them reacted to his disappearance?
I don't know. My sister would have more interaction with him than I did. I didn't have, I didn't talk to them. I talked to maybe over the phone or that sort of thing, but I don't know what they did and didn't do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your impression from your sister, would you say they were more involved? Would you say that they showed more concern than Angelique did?
Ooh, I don't know. It's been so long.
That's actually a good question because one of his roommates automatically assumed that Shawn killed himself.
Okay.
It's just his opinion, like my opinion on Angelique.
Yeah.
It was his opinion that that was what Shawn did, and so it was very cut and dry from him. In his mind, he didn't understand why we had questions. We should just believe his opinion of what happened and go and take that as gospel truth.
Sure.
And so there wasn't, he didn't, in his mind, there was no searching to do. So he really didn't do anything. And Angelique, like I said, she just cut us off. And so we don't know, if she did any searching. If they did any searching, they did it in between day 0 and day 8 when we were notified.
Okay.
Because from the point that we were notified, it became our problem.
Yeah, they didn't.
And they just kind of closed us off from there. And we haven't really got any assistance.
And I've protected Angelique from day 1 for a long time.
Yeah.
I can wait a long time. I'm good at waiting. But I protected her for a long time because she was my one link to him. And I'll be honest, my sister was all upset about it, wanted to kind of go at her, but I was like, no. Shawn and Angelique love each other. I believed in the love that their first love, and I believed in the love that they had for each other. And I didn't believe that she knew anything more than But the fact is that she didn't do any visuals with us. We did candlelight visuals. I invite her. She would never go. She never helped us look for him. She didn't hit the streets and help us look for him ever.
Okay. Moving on to this. Now, at some point, did she say to you, Trisha, or did she maybe say to your sister something about Shawn being down at the pool hall? What is this? What is this comment?
Yeah, my sister and her friend from Modesto drove out there to look for him because we would take trips out there, go looking for him. And she would go out there looking for him. And on this particular trip, this was years after he came up missing, she said, the pool hall just called me, Terry, get out of my house, get out of my house. The pool hall just called me. Yeah. And they said that he's down at the pool hall. Now she's not rushing out the door to go give him a hug and go scoop him up and, tell the news that he's been found. No, but she told my sister and Terry goes, what pool hall? Which one, Angelique? And she said, on the corner of such and such, and she says, I was just there. That's what we've been running around looking at pool halls. I was just at that one and nobody has seen him. Nobody. So,
and what day would this have been?
There.
So this would have been like that Thursday, December 8th or something like that, December 9th, sometime in there?
No, this was months. This was a good, maybe even a year later. This was later. This was, months or years later. She said that to her. She said that to my sister and her friend that was there. She said, he's probably that she got a phone call that they said he's down at the pool hall. And she said, I don't know what you're worried about. He's a grown man. If he wants to go missing, that's his own business. So that's what she told my sister.
And so,
and Jody was there and she said, Trish, she did say it.
This is just kind of a side note. I'm not sure exactly where it'll fit in. But as far as Angelique, like when Shawn came up missing, obviously, he lived there. He had music equipment. He had clothes. He had all these things. When we went to go get Shawn's things, she brought us a pair of pants. Shawn's $1,500 keyboard, no idea where that went. All of Shawn's other music equipment, no idea where that went.
We got one pair of
his guitars, don't know where they went. Don't know where his keyboards went.
All of the stuff is
Don't know where all his other clothes went. We got one pair of pants. That is what we got. And a wallet with nothing in it.
What did the band? What did the other band members say about that?
Well, there's only 2 band members, really. There's only just him and Aria.
All right.
I don't know.
What did Aria say about this?
The only person I talked to was Angelique. She said she was going to keep all of his stuff. And when I got there to go get it, there was nothing there.
Yeah, she said she had everything in Shawn's for us. And then when we went to go pick it up, it was basically she handed her spare pants.
So we don't know what happened to this musical equipment that he had.
Right.
That he was
Everything's
doing.
missing.
That's one of the many things that makes me think that Angelique knows more and that Shawn is still around. Because Shawn was a small, petite guy. There's not a lot of people that are going to fit into his extra medium small clothes that he would wear.
Angela even told me right after he went missing that Aria was coming over, because Aria didn't live with them. So they used to be roommates, but this last place that they lived at, Aria was not one of their roommates.
All right, okay.
Philip may have been a little mistaken on that one. But so anyway, she said, Aria's trying to come over I wanted to call you because Aria's trying to come over to get his clothes. Well, Aria couldn't wear Shawn's clothes. He's bigger, he's more buffed.
Okay.
Shawn wore like an extra small. He was tiny. And I'm like, what for? Why does he want his clothes? No, don't. Angela, you don't give anything away. Keep everything there. Why does he want his clothes? She goes, I don't know. I thought it was weird. I thought I would call you and tell you. She goes, so what, you don't want me to give him his clothes? I said, no. What does he want to? I guess he was coming there to get like a certain jacket and certain things. He had a list of things that he was coming to get. And we don't know why that he wanted his clothes. Because he can't wear them.
So just to be clear, even though, the music equipment itself, and of course it's not going to be cheap for that stuff, but did she offer up any explanation at all why she's only giving you a pair of pants? Were you not like, we know that he had more of a wardrobe than this. What's the deal?
Nothing. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't answer me. Not a word. I called him after a while, and because I heard through rumors that he thought that he committed suicide. So I called to get the scoop on that. Okay, so let's talk about it. Why do you think that Shawn killed himself? I don't know. I just think that immediately when he came up missing, that's what I think he did. And I said, well, okay. And let me just tell you something I find very strange. They talk to me like I'm a dude. They talk to me like I'm a person they went to school with. They don't talk to me like I'm his mom. None of them. Yet they did before. So it's like, so your kid's missing. What do you want? Want me to buy you a beer? They talk to me like I'm a dude. And I'm like, none of them have anybody said, hey, I'm so sorry your son went missing. I can't believe what you're going through. Not a word, not even their parents. I waited a whole year and her parents never called me. I called them and said, are you serious with this? If Angelique came up missing, I'd be on your doorstep. Well, what are you going to say? That's what I get from her mom. I'm just like, okay. Anyway, so I called Aria and I wanted to find out why he would think this. And if Shawn told him or they found a note. I said, okay, so you think Shawn's gone. You think that he's dead. Yeah. Like, okay. So do you have anything to lose telling me? I want to know stuff. I want to know about stealing the jacket. I want to know how much he stole, how long he was doing this. He goes, yeah, I got nothing to lose. What do you want? What do you want to know? What do you want to know? I told Shawn he was either going to go to jail or he was going to be dead. And I think that he killed himself. And I said, okay, so when you normally kill yourself, there's a body. Like, you walk in, you find a body, right? He's like, oh, I don't know how he did it. I have no idea how he did it. This is before I found the pictures. Okay. So that bridge wasn't even on my mind. Okay. He goes, I don't know how he did it. I just think that's what he did.
Is it a possibility that I just have to throw this out there? Is it a possibility that Aria was acting like that because he was the one, being that he was in the band with Shawn, he was the one that actually got that equipment?
Probably.
Is that
Possible.
Oh, absolutely. Who else wants it? It's only them two. It would go to him. So like I said, if you look up Fee and you look it up, you'll see them making videos. It's just the two of them. But he's like, yeah, Shawn was the brilliance, the creator of that. I just was lucky enough to, ride the tail, And we always liked Aria. We have always, I still like Aria to this day, but that's what he believes. And I don't know why he believes it. Because I said, he goes, yeah, the last time I saw Shawn, he was in a great mood. I said, was he depressed? No. Did he leave a note? No. Did he tell you, hey, this weekend I'm going to go kill myself? No. So why would you think he killed himself? I just think that's what I just think that's what happened.
Okay. That's just his opinion. Okay. Moving on. Philip, my understanding is, did you get like a private investigator or somebody to kind of look into all this and go?
We have. We've actually had a couple different investigators look into it. Both of them had the same opinion when it came to Angelique, which is they felt like she knew more than what she was saying.
Okay.
They certainly didn't imply or say that she was guilty of anything. Only that she was not. Only that she knew more than what she was saying. They both felt that way in their professional opinion.
Investigators at two different times that don't know each other. They went and talked to everybody.
So one of them was like a regular PI, and one of them was actually a federal investigator with some really, really high level security clearances.
Okay.
And so we had both of them look. Both of them investigated, went and spoke with Angelique, did all the things the police department wouldn't do. Basically, went and spoke to everybody. Both of them contacted us individually and said that they felt like Angelique knew more and that she was hiding things from them. The other investigator, the federal investigator, went as far as digging into Shawn's social security information and found some
I don't even know if we should go there.
Some anomalies in his social security information that were kind of odd, where, when he first looked at it, it looked very normal, like, any person that might be missing, nothing happening, nothing major going on. But then he looked at it again like a year later and all his information was gone. And then he looked at it again a year later and it was back again.
So he said his social security, and I don't know if we should go there or if you should put this on there, but I'm going to tell you, he said his social security was scraped. I said, what do you mean? What does that? What does scrape mean? He goes, Trish, if you died in a car accident today, nobody's going to remove your social security number. We could still look and see where you worked, where you lived. There's no reason to. You're just a person that died in a car accident.
Yeah.
But his has been removed. It's been scraped.
That
and I said,
has to happen through a federal judge.
Why? No, why? But why would that happen? What do you mean it was scraped? And he said, witness protection program is why he says they would do that.
Okay.
I said, are you serious? It's gone. He said, yeah.
Okay. So getting back to Angelique, so she didn't exactly slam the door in each of these investigators' faces, but on the other hand, she talked to them, but they still thought that she was withholding things. That's
absolutely.
Oh, she was like trying to catch a bucking donkey. Okay.
All
no,
right.
She didn't want to talk to him. No, she pushed them away.
Okay.
Yeah, she pushed them away.
She did talk to him.
She did.
She did.
But they said it was hard to get her to talk to them. She was the only one that resisted their, advances talking to her about this. She didn't want to have anything to do with them. Anybody else was like, sure. What do you want to know?
What about the other people? Did they speak to Aria or any of these other people? What did they have to say, Philip, about any of the other people that would have been around Shawn at the time?
They did not feel like there was any concern about any of them or that they knew anything other than what they had been saying the whole time.
Okay.
Which, we discussed. I mean, he got the same story from Aria. He didn't get any pushback. The other kids that he interviewed, they were happy to sit down and talk with him. Obviously not happy, but they were okay with sitting down with him and talking to him and saying anything we could do to help the situation we want to. Angelique was the one that just didn't want anything to do with it. She avoided it at all costs. And then when she did talk to him, she was not forthcoming with information.
Okay.
And I said, well, what does that mean? What do you mean? Like something happened, like a crime? Like, are they trying to cover? I freaked because I'm like, they're like, she knows more than she's saying. And I'm like, and they go, oh, no. Your son's not dead, Trish. She knows exactly where he's at and she knows exactly what happened. And we're not getting the truth from her.
That's what these investigators said.
Yeah.
These people who actually, this is not coming out of your mouth. This actually came out of their mouths.
Yes.
They
said no, because I freaked out thinking if she's hiding something, he's gone, right? Maybe there was an accident. Maybe they had a party. Maybe, and they were like, oh, no. He's alive. She just knows where he's at. And I said, why would she be hiding him? What is the secret? It doesn't connect. What are we covering up here?
Well, and
it's weird.
Also, aside from them, we also have had a police officer in the mountains here tell us that he definitely confirmed sighting of Shawn, and had four people that he arrested that all knew him, knew who he was, knew that he was a missing kid. Didn't know him by Shawn Dickerson, knew him by a different name, but they 100% individually separated, all knew who he was, knew that he was a registered missing person, and at the time they said that he was going to be going back to Fort Collins.
We were shocked he's even in Colorado
There's
at all.
some indication that he's actually here in this area somewhere, and we just haven't found him. And that he followed us out here, and that came from a police officer up in the mountains. And he said, because we asked him, what his opinion on what his
This
percentage.
is the rainbow family he's talking about.
Yeah, what the percentage
He was seen
opinion
with the rainbow people.
of whether he thought that was Shawn or not. He said, no, 100%. He goes, you don't have four people tell you that that's somebody, and they're all lying. Because they're all individually separated. He goes, they know.
They showed pictures and they said, do you know him? And they just said, yeah, we know this guy. Yeah. Okay. And they said, he's a missing person. He goes, how do you know he's missing? He goes, because he told us. He told us he's missing.
Okay. You mentioned, I have to ask you about this. It's on the outline anyway. You mentioned the rainbow people. I don't know how much we want to get into this. It'll be up to you. But when did you first hear this name of this group, that Shawn could be connected to them somehow after he went missing? When did that come up, Trisha?
I had we have a missing person advocate in San Diego area. She happened to call me, and we were just like brainstorming, trying to figure out, she goes, would he get involved with a cult? And I said, oh gosh, no. Unless he's leading it. He's certainly not a follower, and so she goes, well, there's this rainbow family. Do you not know anything about him? I said, no. And so she started talking to me about this rainbow family, and she said, Trish, they're going to be up in your neck of the woods. They're going to be in Utah. So now, once again, no connections with Shawn, but he could be with these people. So I'm like, all right. So my sister was visiting at the time, and we took off. We all three decided to go camping for the week and go hang out and see if we can find him and see what this rainbow family thing's all about. Okay. So it was huge. It was a yearly thing that they do, which is thousands and thousands of people. Even in a week, you don't have enough time to see everybody. And you have to walk for miles. It isn't like they're all camping in one spot. They hide out in the hills, and you literally walk for miles. So we went. It was hot. It was horrible. It was a lot of stuff going on. So we left and came home. I said, I never want to see these people again. Okay. They're very sweet. But I just, no. I don't want to see you. I don't want to do the, So anyway, lo and behold, the rainbow family came back into our life. There's a lady that was looking for her son.
About 2 years later.
Yeah, about 2 years later. And they were having another gathering up here in Colorado, up in Telluride. And she was going to look for her son. Her son was only 15. She was coming from the San Diego area. So someone ran over to her and said, hey, listen, there's a gal that lives out in Colorado. Her son's missing. Since you're going to the rainbow family, take a flyer. So they gave her a flyer. Her and her girlfriend drove from San Diego. They said, we literally looked at the pictures and we threw it in the backseat because we're going to look for our kid. I said, I get you. Your son's 15. You can find your son. He's a minor, right? So she runs out there, her and her friend, with really not Shawn in mind, to be honest. And so they run out there. Well, at a campfire, they found him. They said that they thought it was him. And they ran back to their car and they looked at the flyer and they go, oh, that's Shawn Dickerson all the way. Mm-hmm. They didn't bring up, hey, we're looking for you. Your mom's looking for you. You're missing, They didn't, because you don't want to do that there. You don't want to do that there. You want to stay on the low. So they talked to him at the campfire and was getting some information from him. And they said that it was 100% him. That's how we got the information that he was there. So the girl that gave him the flyer, they called her. She called me, and she says, Shawn's in Telluride. They see him once with the Rainbow family. I said, oh, God. So we took off out the door. And at that point is when I sent the flyer to the police department up in Telluride. And I called them and I said, listen. And he goes, oh, you guys don't want to go to the Rainbow family. No. And I said, no, we've been with them before. We get it. I got to go. I got a sighting. I got to go. He goes, but if I send you a flyer, will you hang on to it? You might see him at the gas station. You might see him at the store. People come in and buy drinks and whatever. And he's like, sure. I said, yeah, okay. So I sent him an email. I sent him Shawn's flyer and I took off. And then we looked for him. Nothing.
The weekend up there.
In fact, when we got there, they kind of for lack of a better word. They squat for like 30 days. They go there and they're just there. They got the dogs, they got their stuff, So they're there. But people were leaving. And I know they only been up there for about a week or so. And people were leaving, and we were watching people leave. And we were like, what's going on? Why are you guys leaving? They're like, they ran out of soup. They ran out of water.
There was a big fight.
We're drinking out of the river. Sick. So people were leaving. I'm like, oh my God. So we're like trying to find Shawn, and people were leaving. Some people were staying, some people were leaving, but there wasn't enough food at the food kitchen. So they were supposed to get some food coming in. They didn't. And people, I guess one guy got sick and went to the hospital. I don't know. So people were leaving. We were paranoid. We were freaking out, but we hung out to the bitter end and waited and see if we can find him. We didn't find him. I got home. I took a shower because you're dirty from head to toe, let me tell you. And while I was in the shower, Sheriff Todd called and left me a message. I'm so glad that I was in the shower. I'm going to be honest. I got the voicemail and he said, all right, this is Sheriff Todd. He goes, I just wanted to call you back. I didn't have to go to the Rainbows. The Rainbows came to me. He goes, so about 4 of these fellers from, and the Rainbow came down and they broke into our storefront properties here. They broke the windows and they were stealing stuff. Mm-hmm. These young, 20-year-olds. At this time, Shawn was about 26, 27. Okay. This happened. So they were a little bit younger. So anyway, he goes, so I arrested him. So me and my buddy, my partner, we thought, well, heck, we got these 4 Rainbows. Let's see if they know this missing person. That's when they went to the precinct. They separated all 4 and they just slammed down the picture and said, do you know him? And they go, oh yeah. And they told him he wasn't going by Klaus Agnes or Shawn Dickerson. They didn't know about those names, but he was going by a certain name. So they slammed down the picture and they said, yeah, each one of them said they absolutely know him. He's in and out. He doesn't spend full time with the Rainbows, but he is in and out. So that's when I got this message over the phone and I called him and he told me, and I said, how sure are you? He goes, listen, you got the sighting from the 2 girls up at the campfire. And then, at the same gathering, you get 4 more people that says it's him. It's absolutely him. If I was looking for this guy, it's 100%. I know that this is the right guy that I'm looking for.
What name was Shawn? Did they say what name Shawn was using?
Trip.
Excuse me?
Trip.
TRIP, Trip.
Trip. Okay.
Trip. That's
no
last.
It's actually a fitting name for the Rainbow people because they're mushroom eating hippies.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Not to be drinking and all that.
They don't drink. It's the appropriate name for Shawn. Trip would be very fitting in the Rainbow.
He says, they're very loving people, but it's also they can be very dangerous, and that's why the cop advised us not to go. I said, well, are you going to go? He goes, oh, I'm not going to go.
Have you, in the last, let's just say, we're doing this once again, we're doing this interview on May 19th of 2023. Have either of you attempted to go to any of these gatherings, again, like within the last, let's say, 3 years of trying to...
I just went to one probably 3 months ago.
Oh, did you? Where? Yep. Can you say where it was?
Yeah, it was the last annual gathering, and it was up in the mountains up near Steamboat.
There in Colorado.
It was the 50-year anniversary.
Yeah, it was the 50 years.
I think this thing spun out of Woodstock, to be honest with you. So back in like 1971, 72 is when they first started it. Their very first gathering that they had was in Colorado, was up there by Steamboat, right? Steamboat
it was up near Steamboat. It was up there. It's kind of between both.
Yeah.
So
that just happened, last year?
Yeah.
So they had their 50 year, and I was like, I ain't going. I've been there. I don't want to go anymore. Philip's like, I'm going. I got some buddies that got some Rainbow connections.
Yeah, I got a bunch of my buddies. They're old hippies, and I'm like, come on, let's go.
So they took off. They were looking for him.
Philip, and did you have any success doing that, bringing any flyers?
They're a very close-knit group. So there was actually only one lady there that I was able to openly talk to about Shawn. And she was one of the leaders of the Rainbow family. I put her name she goes by Feather. Anybody in the Rainbow family knows who she is.
Of course she does. Of course she goes by Feather.
Yeah, of course she goes by Feather. But if she watches this, she certainly knows who she is. And she's the one. She's kind of the mama of the Rainbow family, if you will. And so she certainly, she took me under her wing. and she got a few of her people out there poking around to see if they could spot him for me. But I didn't get any results.
Okay.
You can't. If I were to run around and just post up flyers everywhere, I would get shut out in 5 minutes. And there are people that do that, but they find out. We did that the first time we went to, and it's just a learning lesson. If that's where you got to go looking for your child, you just got to go. And
they'll help you, and they'll keep it on the low down, and they feel sorry for you, and then but you just don't know who to trust.
You just got to go and be quiet about what you're doing. You cannot tell people what you're doing. You just got to go and look for your child.
Because they'll tell them and they'll say, "You got to skedaddle. Your parents are looking for you."
So Shawn was not familiar. So Shawn was not familiar to this woman.
No, Feather did tell me that he looked familiar to her. Absolutely.
Okay.
She said she felt like she hadn't seen him in a year or two. But she did not know if he was at this gathering. But that she 100%, he was very, very, very familiar to her, and that she thought that she hadn't seen him in a couple of years.
Okay. I have to ask you this, being that these investigators, I realize Angela didn't want to say much, not to you, not to anybody else, but was she ever asked about Shawn ever possibly going with this rainbow family, these rainbow people, Trisha, and did she have any answer to that?
When the private investigators went out to talk to her, this was way before the rainbow family thing came up.
Okay.
So we didn't tell them, hey, ask her about this. We didn't know anything about that. The rainbow family just came up within the last maybe 4 or 5 years or so.
Okay.
The sighting up in Telluride, that was huge. That was the biggest one we've ever had. That was in 2018?
Yeah, and then it was maybe 2 years before that was when we went to the first one out in Utah.
What was weird is I had a friend call me, and this is just personal stuff, but I had a friend call me. She goes, Trish, Shawn's been watching you. I said, what do you mean, like on Facebook or something? And she goes, no, I think he's been standing outside your house, and he knows exactly where you guys live. I think he's watching you from afar. And I'm like, what? And then Philip come home from work. This is before we got the sighting at Telluride.
About a week before that.
And it was actually my birthday. It was in September. So I just got like this birthday present, right? So Philip comes home and goes, I think Shawn's been here. Like, I think he's been watching us. And I said, oh my God, that's what Diane said. And he goes, yeah, I think he's been watching us. And then we got the sighting. I said,
it was within a week of that.
He's either in New York, LA, or something. He likes the city. He's not up in the mountains, And sure enough, that's when we got the sighting that same week. Yeah.
What has this all been like for you? Of course, it's been like 12 years now.
Almost.
Can you put all of this into words? It sounds like you, of course, have a lot of hope that he's still out there alive, that he lived well past living to this day into 2023, of course, through COVID and everything else that's going on in the world.
Right. We thought
in the last 12 years. How can you encapsulate the last 12 words in words? Maybe we'll start with you first, Philip. Can you encapsulate?
Yeah, I was going to say maybe we should close separate on this because I think we probably have a little bit different opinions on it. Number one, to answer what it's like, it's been like being on the worst, scariest ride that you could ever be on that doesn't want to stop. It doesn't seem to want to go away. Aside from that, I actually do think that Shawn's still alive. I think Shawn's out there. I think that I think that it's important that in doing this that we keep in mind that Shawn might watch this video.
Sure.
And so in that, I would like to put a note out there to Shawn, just to let him know that regardless of what he's doing, what he's done, the mistakes he's made,
nothing, really.
The perfect things he's done, the wrong things he's done, all of it, none of it matters. We're still his parents. We still love him. God forbid that he's a serial killer out there. But there are parents of serial killers that still love their children.
Sure.
They still love their children.
I know. Yes.
They hurt for what their children are doing, but they still love their children. And so I just want Shawn to know that regardless of anything that's happening out there, we still love him. We still have a bed for him. We always live in a place that has a bedroom for him that is literally allocated for Shawn. Mm-hmm. That is what it's there for. It's for when Shawn's ready to lay down whatever war he's having out there, and he's tired and he wants to come home and rest. We have a place for him.
Philip, I'll ask follow up with this. Is it your understanding then, once again, going back to the shoplifting thing, he didn't follow his work duty. Is he still in trouble for that if he were to reappear? Is he still in
I
trouble
highly
for that
doubt
or
it.
what?
I highly doubt it. It's been so long, and his charges were a local city charge. It wasn't even something that was going to go to the state level. It was local city charges. And so from what I understand, when you get those kind of minor felony charges in San Francisco, after 10 years, even if you never showed up in court, they go away. Mm-hmm. And so Shawn's stuff is all cleaned up. He doesn't have any fear of the police are not going to come knock on our door if he suddenly comes and lives with us, or he suddenly, wants to live a life again and come back out and live in a civil world where the rest of us are at. Nobody's looking for him to have him be in trouble. They don't care.
How about we trade this? They need to be, booked for not looking for my son. You guys need to be charged for not. How about you drop the charges because you didn't? You're lucky I'm not charging you for not looking for my kids. So let's do a fair trade and just shut up. You know what I'm saying? So.
All right, Trisha, we'll give you, Philip had his say. What about you? What has this been like, last, not quite 12 years, but.
Well, I look at it, I look back at all the things that's happened and I'm thinking this is a kid that, we would take off for the weekend and like we'd go on an anniversary and we're like, hey, we're going to go to Carmel for the weekend or whatever. And we look back and we never once looked at each other and thought, do you think that Shawn's going to have a party? Like he is a teenager, hey, the parents are leaving, so let's have a kegger. No, we're dealing with a golden child kind of a syndrome. I think that he felt from grace. But I'm going to be honest with you, selling a jacket or whatever you've been doing with this thievery thing that you had a short-lived or whatever you were doing is nothing compared to this going missing.
None of it matters. Sexual preference, anything that could be keeping him away. None of that matters. We still love him as parents. Mm-hmm. Shawn is still our son. He's always going to be our heart. We're always going to have a heart for him and wanting nothing but the best for him, regardless of any mistake.
We went down everything we can think of. Is he gay? Is he this? Is he that? Mm-hmm. Why did you run? What are you running from? Right? I mean, stealing a jacket and hope mom and dad finds out, so I got to get out of here. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We all did dumb things when we were young. And Shawn, I was always open with you about the dumb things that I did when I was young. So you're very aware of some of those things. So don't hold yourself to such a high standard, dude. Mm-hmm. Right. None of us can meet that standard. We're all. And
someone once told me that this is called an ambiguous loss.
Yeah.
And for some reason, this brought peace to me. It's strange that it is because it actually has a name for this insanity, right? Yep. You're on this roller coaster, but you don't know if you're mad. You don't know. What if we're all wrong and something happened to him on day one and he's a victim of a crime and then, I'm madder at a hornet 10 years later at him. Well, what am I mad at if, he was killed or, someone had him do away with or whatever, I find myself very angry at Shawn. Like, why do you keep staying away? You need to call us. Don't you care? If you want to do the hippie hate Ashbury thing, I don't care. Let mom buy you a phone. Just let me know you're alive.
You're right.
Right? Okay. I mean, we just hear nothing from you. And then when I find out that he is and that he's telling, oh, yeah, I'm a missing person. Really? I mean, that kind of ticks me off. And they're like, well, it's good news. Yeah, but he's missing, and why doesn't he call us? So it's in the beginning, you think of these horrible things that could have happened. I've already gone there in my mind of all these torturous, I had psychics calling me up, telling me some real loopy things.
I bet you have.
Getting a hold of me. Oh, your son's in a dungeon and being made to do this and that, Oh my God, maybe they know stuff,
We've had scammers contact us and wanting to send, dogs to go look for Shawn that weren't even dogs, that were cadaver dogs.
Which we actually got into, and
they're out there.
And money and all kinds of
stuff. We've had all kinds of people come out of the words. We had a guy that said that he was a reverend on the streets of San Francisco, that he was, which he really is, but he said that he was chasing Shawn around all this time, and he wasn't. He wasn't. He was just trying to get money or trying to get ahead or something. And so we've had just, so many people come along to try to take advantage of bad situations, and it's terrible.
It is terrible.
So what happened?
People out there.
I've already created it in my mind. It can't be any worse than what I've already drummed up over here, So, but yeah, when they said it's an ambiguous loss, it's that's why I said you can't heal. There's no healing. Where are you healing from? You don't know what happened. So you're on this constant, just roller coaster that you can't get off of. And you can't mourn. What are you mourning? Is he dead? We don't know. And then when you get these sightings, we got a sighting from a gal. Some of them I believe, and some of them I don't believe right off the bat. I mean, there was a store owner that said she saw him in San Francisco. My sister bought into that, never believed her.
And then there was people.
She had no reason to love me. And there was this one girl, we were putting up flyers, and she was riding her bicycle, and she's homeless. And she had one of those cute little bicycles with a basket in the front. She had some groceries in it, She's just a hippie old little girl. And so she's riding by, and she turned around, and she saw us posting up Shawn's flyer. This was probably a year into him missing or so. And she turned around, and she goes, "Oh, I know him. He was just with me last night. He was squatting in my camp with me. And he was playing his guitar that Philip gave him. And she said that he said," and I believe this girl 100%. Just some things hit you and you're like, yep. And the other ones you're like, nope, I don't know. I don't believe her, but this girl, I believe. And she said, and Terry's like, oh, what was he wearing? What was he saying? What was he doing? And she said, yeah, he was there. He said that he's ran off, and that it's sad to say, this is what he told her, but the way that she spoke was Shawn. And he said, I know my mom and dad are looking for me, but they're better off without me.
Huh.
And that's what he told her. And I said, are you absolutely for sure this is him? She goes, oh yeah, that's him. Yeah. And I believed her. And this was a year, maybe even 2 or so with it. Because we were out there hitting the pavement all the time, running around looking for him, having vigils, the California 5. And I know you didn't bring that up, but he is involved with them as well. So anyway, yes.
Okay.
It's a nightmare is what it is.
Trisha, why don't you tell everybody about all the places? I know you have a TikTok account, Facebook. Why don't you tell the listeners all the places where you talk about Shawn's disappearance, where you do? I've seen the videos and everything else. Why don't you tell everybody about all of that right now?
Yeah, I have help find Shawn Dickerson, and I have a Where Shawn, a different separate Facebook page that I created from the very beginning.
Okay.
I had help to get that going because, like I said, I didn't know anyway how to even do Facebook at all. And so I had other people, missing families and that kind of thing, helping me with that. And then I decided to go on TikTok. So one is called Where Shawn, and the other one is Help Find Shawn Dickerson. That's through Facebook. And then I decided to go on TikTok and just look for him. So I created an account, and I didn't have anything on there. I just looked. I just watched videos and see if I can find him because he's young and music, and I might see him.
Sure.
So then I decided to go on there and make my own. I do like acting stuff, and then I started putting up Shawn's videos, and that's Trish Dish 2.0 is what that's.
Trish Dish 2.0.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Like Tosh.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Trish
Tosh
Dish
2.0.
All right, so it's 2.0. That's what it is. Trish Dish 2.0. The little dot.
Yeah, Trish Dish.
0. Okay. Mm-hmm. Any final words before we complete this interview for both of you? Any final words?
My final words are really for Shawn. Shawn, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, we love you. We're always going to be here in the world of WWW. No matter where we're at, no matter where we go, you're always going to be able to find us. We'll make sure that we always have a web presence that makes sure that you know where to find us when you're ready. And if that day never comes, Shawn, and I wish the best of luck for you. And just know that we love you.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do to separate us from the love that we have for him. There's nothing you can do, Shawn, to make us cut you off.
I thank both of you for appearing on this episode of Unfound.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for your heart for the lost. Missing.
You're welcome. Thanks.
And that was my May 19th, 2023 interview with Trisha and Philip Brucker. parents of Shawn Dickerson. I thank them for appearing on both audio and video for this episode. To remind all of you of a point I made in the interview, I've been talking to Trisha for at least 4 years about appearing on Unfound. But I should also tell you that I hadn't spoken to Philip until the day of the interview, and I enjoyed getting to know him. I wanted to tell you this because, as is always the situation with guests who took a while to make it onto an episode, I delight in all of you finally getting to hear what I've known for quite a while, and especially if there are points that are totally puzzling. There is a part of me that enjoys finding out that you are just as confused as I've been for many months, if not years. It's like some kind of validation or something. Well, for Shawn's disappearance, here are the 2 points that have caused me to pace my condo for quite a while, thinking about them. They also explain the title of this episode. First, the Facebook photos. I've tried to reason out if Shawn could have predicted that someone would hack into his account and find them, because they seem to be a big clue. Remember, they were not public. The only person who could have seen them was Shawn himself. If the answer is no, that Shawn could not have known that someone would find the pictures, then what was the point of posting them if he planned to disappear and change his identity, or commit suicide, or whatever other choices there could be? For example, couldn't Shawn have just saved them on his phone if he wanted to gaze at them periodically to remind himself of his prior life? Or if he did commit suicide, why take any pictures at all that no one else would ever see? Yet choosing to answer yes to Shawn anticipating that someone would hack his account doesn't make the reasoning any easier. If he thought that would happen, why would Shawn want to reveal to others what he did that day? Why would Shawn want to leave the possible impression on his parents that, for example, he could have jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge when he and his parents were on very good terms? Or if Shawn really wanted to run away, change his identity, and never see anyone he knew again, would he not fear that through the photos, someone might actually be able to track him down? For example, a witness who saw him on the bridge that day might have remembered him walking off the bridge and getting into a taxi or something. Point number 2 concerns the rainbow people and photos. I am a bit perplexed on how multiple people insist they've seen Shawn. But in the age of everybody having a camera at all times, and this was certainly true by the time 2011 got here, not one photo of Shawn has ever been sent to his family, despite a Facebook page and everything else. The rainbow people, although certainly insulated and mysterious, do not have anything against taking photos of each other. I checked. Unlike the Amish, for example. Once again, hard to understand. Because I think if we could get a picture of either point, forgive the pun, we would know what happened to Shawn. If you'd like to hear and read my deeper analysis of the disappearance of Shawn Dickerson, please sign up at patreon.com/Unfound Podcast to read the Unfound blog. You can now pay all at one time for an entire year and get a 10% discount. Until then, I leave the public theorizing up to you. And that's the program. Right now, while you are in your podcast platform, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, wherever, give Unfound a 5-star review, a thumbs up, whatever that platform allows. I thank you for listening. I'm Ed Densel, and you've just finished this episode of Unfound.